Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another Gogglebox Match Watch live from the ThreeBOD Rugby Group. I'm Big Joe Shepp, founder and chief bloke of the ThreeBOD Rugby Group, and today we are supported by our show, the Three Blokes, a Ball and Bod, which was the original show that we ever did. And I have to give a big shout out today to a guy called Halby Pottinger, who was on the original Three Blokes with me, and is on go to YouTube after the Scotland-Wales game, and he is go to the Rugby Pass channel, and he is doing some analysis for them afterwards. So good luck to you on that, mate. Well done. On today's show, we are looking at Scotland versus Wales, the second of our Gogglebox that we are doing, which is where, if you like, Gogglebox, our good friends at Gogglebox, gave us the idea, and where that meets rugby, where we have got fans in the studio. We are watching the game, you're watching us, and anything else can happen. So let's introduce the team that we have got with us today. Looking after the controls for me, as ever. I really need to go and change this top. I put it on. There's going to be so many of those people. My brother from another mother in Cardiff, Dave Williams, would be very proud of me, but there you go. Brandon Smith, who's one third of our triple co-host, who runs our Welsh Rugby Roundup show, The Dragons Balls, who was at the controls for us today, Brandon Smith from Brandon Smith Rugby on YouTube. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, really good. Enjoyed watching the England against Italy game. It was a good game in the end, actually, and enjoyed it, but very nervous for this one. I think it could go either way. So, yeah, a little bit nervous.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I put Wales down purely, not to disrespect Scotland's win last week, because it wasn't the case that England lost. Scotland absolutely won it outright. I just think this week, I think I'll edge Wales out. Let's turn to our Scottish guest today. He is, again, one third of the excellent the Scottish Rugby podcast, with John Anderson and Cammy. Ian Hay, welcome to the show for the first time, mate. You're most welcome.
Oh, thank you. And I feel welcome already, even though I seem to be outnumbered, specifically in short colours.
I'm going to go and change my top before we start, mate. But, hey, listen, you're welcome, mate, and love what the three of you are doing with the Scottish Rugby podcast, which is why I go to Patreon and support them like I am, because it's if you want to listen to a podcast where there's everything, including salmon fiddling, you've got to go and listen to that, because that's still my favourite.
That's that Cammy one.
That was a Cammy one, it was indeed. Ian Hay from the Scottish Rugby podcast is welcome, representing Scotland today. And finally, also one third, the second or the third of our Welsh Rugby Roundup show. Ben Coles, welcome to the show, mate. How are you? Hope you're well.
Yeah, very good, thanks, mate. Very good. Nervous, same as Brandon. We talked about this the other day. I'm just really anxious about how this game's going to go. You know, excited at the same time, but yeah, pleased to be watching it, and I'll try and keep myself from shouting at the boys.
Absolutely. Well, I think what was interesting when we look at the stats for Wales last week, even beating us, beating the Irish, something like 271 attempted tackles. I remember off the top of my head, 245 tackles in comparison to Scotland at 92 or 90 or something ridiculously low against England in your victory. That says an awful lot about what was going on there. Ben, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts today, and why are you so worried? I mean, Scotland played ridiculously well. But Wales, are you happy with the team that Wayne's picked to start you off?
Yeah, I think, given everything that's gone on this week with the injuries and what have you, I still think it's a relatively strong side that can go out, definitely do the job today. I think the one thing that we've got to say, you mentioned the tackle stat there. We're definitely up there as being probably one of the fittest sides in the tournament. But we use it in the wrong ways. We spent the majority of that game last week defending, and we defended right until the end. Today, I want us to see us turn that into sort of like putting pressure on the Scots, because if you give people like Finn Russell the platform that we gave Ireland last week, he's going to put Scotland in the right areas of the field, and we're going to struggle. But I think we really need to up our ante today. We've got an athletic side playing, an exciting young side playing. We just got to fire some shots. I've mentioned it a few times now. We just got to show people what we can do and make teams worry about us.
Good. Ian, thoughts? Scotland team, no. I was very impressed with Cammy Redpath. We were talking offline before, but no Cammy injured this week in the middle. And I had some questions about a couple of players there. A lot of views online about Blake Thompson at 6. I always have a look, even though I was, a sort of club level front rower. I always am intrigued by the back row. Hamish Watson's one of my favourite players. I think he's absolutely superb. But Blake Thompson at 6, Ian. Thoughts on him? And then the centre now, James Lang, off to Edinburgh at the end of the year from Quins. Play fly half as well with Chris Harris in the centre. Thoughts on that side?
Well, obviously Jamie Ritchie's a massive loss because the guy's a test match animal. He's a bit nasty. That's what you want from a back rower. Thompson, I've seen him playing for Scarps a few times, and obviously he's impressed down there. He's maybe not hit the heights that people wanted to see him do in a Scotland shirt, but he had obviously that horrendous concussion problem that kept him out for a while. But we know he's a very skillful player. He's coming in as a line-out option, I think, primarily with Ritchie out because Matt Fagerson's not the biggest. But no, I think the last time I saw him playing was probably Autumn Nations Cup against Italy. He put in a pretty good shift. I think maybe a lot of Scottish fans, I think a lot of rugby fans in general, maybe want everyone to produce miracles. But no, we'll see what he does today. I think he's a very solid player. I think he's the right guy to come in to replace Ritchie. And we'll see how he does. Obviously, Redpath missing after his brilliant debut last week. It's a real shame for him. But now here's James Lang's chance to really cement his place. And obviously, when you've got a class operator like Finn Russell inside you, he's going to take so much pressure off him. Let's see if he can do a Redpath.
I always imagine that from an outsider's point of view, that the Ali Price Finn Russell is a great partnership, and one that probably a lot of England haven't got their 9-10 sorted yet. Ireland, Jesus, we don't even know who our first choice 9-10 is. Wales scrap around from time to time as well, but Ali Price and Finn Russell. Finn is one of those people that just amazes me. I think he just creates something from nothing, but can have a moment like last week, which is, I suppose, most 10s are. It's that level of genius, almost, and madness. That can go very, very quickly. But I like that as a partnership, Ali Price and Finn Russell, Ian. I think it's very good.
Yeah, apparently as well. Obviously they played together at Glasgow, and they're really good friends off the pitch as well. And like you said, I nearly put my broadcast name down as Ian Hay, Finn Russell lover, because I adore Finn Russell. I remember the first time I ever saw him, I was like, who is this gallus little bastard? I like this guy. And now he's developed into a world-class player. Easy top 3 10s in the world. And possibly the best, because he has such variation on his game. He does have those moments of madness, but it's like a controlled madness. His decision making is so quick. He goes, "This is the best option." Sometimes it doesn't come off, but when it does, it is spectacular, as we've seen so many times.
Absolutely. And just before we come to Brandon for your thoughts, ladies and gents, you're welcome to today's show, the second in our series of 5, and part of the overall series of our Six Nations coverage for 2021. And John Mark, Peter, Brian Murphy. Jesus, I need to get up. I need to get my lads to come on here, because when my lads were born, each of them started with 3 names. I've got 4 lads, 3 names, 4 names, 5 names, 6 names. So good job I don't have any girls. So we need some more people like that on. You're welcome to today's Gogglebox, courtesy of Three Blokes, a Ball and Bob, part of the ThreeBOD Rugby Group. Brandon Smith, tell us where it's going to be won and lost today and why. While I slip my...
I think we've got to win the battle of the breakdown. Looking at the Wales squad, losing the likes of Lydiot and Navidi at the breakdown is going to be a massive loss for us. We have got to slow that ball down. And I think the big concern for me is the amount of kicking we did last weekend, especially at the beginning of the game. If we kick loosely to that back line, we're in big, big trouble. Hogg, fantastic fullback. Darcy Graham, dancing feet. Duran van der Merwe's a bit of a beast. And obviously, if the game breaks up, Finn Russell's probably the best fly half in the world in those situations. So we've got to be disciplined. We've got to keep the game organised. as Ben and myself spoke about throughout the week on the Welsh Rugby Roundup show, we said we're going to keep it tight. We're going to play simple rugby. Don't expect to see Pivac style that much. I think it's going to be a close game, but I am going to back Wales to win. Just 3 to 5 points for me. Wales to win. Just.
Okay. Ian, just doing the... That's just before you come on and tell us what the final score is going to be. They're just doing the point for racism now. And we just point out that everybody involved with the ThreeBOD Rugby Group and all our guests and all the joint venture shows, the forums and groups that we do, everybody stands up against racism. There's no place for it. It's not required. And also, be kind online, okay? Because some of the things that are happening in sport at the moment, people are taking the frustrations with COVID and lockdown and all the things happening in the world out online. It isn't acceptable. A bit of crack, but tagging players in, tagging families in, things like that, it's just not acceptable. In the round ball this weekend, referee Mike Dean has been taken off because he received death threats. It is unacceptable, lads. So be kind to each other. Everybody gets treated equally, and that's the way it should be. And that's our stance. There we go. We're now into... I tell you, I do miss having the fans in the ground. You know, one of the I lived and worked, as a lot of people know, for 2 years in Edinburgh. My eldest boy is in Edinburgh, lives there now with his fiance, and I lived and worked. I was in Edinburgh Castle for 2 years, and so absolutely phenomenal times when rugby was on, and being live at a game in any national city, I think is just exceptional. Even I have to say, even the Army Navy at the grey bleakness of concrete Twickenham, it just miss it. For you lads, do you think that the fans in the ground or not having them makes a huge difference to the game, Ben?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, last week when, one of the biggest things for me, sit down, watch the build up of the game, but then when you watch that anthem, it always like sort of inspires you and you think, oh, this is going to be a great game. But when the Welsh started singing last week and it was just 23 voices and whatever the management was singing, it was really strange. And I know, like, being one of those fans, I was saying to one of the boys earlier on, 6 years ago, we were up at Murrayfield watching Wales and Scotland, and I think I sang the Scottish anthem as loud as I sang the Welsh anthem. It's the best ground in the world to go to, and I think it's just that chemistry between the Scottish and the Welsh fans. Never a dull moment, never a story that's not to be told. So yeah, it is heartbreaking, but fingers crossed we can get back to it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's quite interesting on anthems. There we go. Flower of Scotland. Ian will know this, but most people around the globe don't. It's not an ancient song, is it, Ian, at all? 1957, I think, from the Corries.
Yeah, and it only first got used as a Scottish national anthem, the 1990 Grand Slam decider. So yeah, but it has been adopted. I mean, my mum thinks it's a dirge, but I mean, for me, like when you go to Murrayfield and the pipes cut out for the second verse, and it's just the stadium doing it on its own. It's
Absolutely.
The hairs on your arms and the back of your neck just ping up.
Well,
even there as the bagpipe strains were coming on, I was just like, I feel like I should be standing up here with my heart on my hand.
Mate, honestly, one of the abiding memories of my time. I was a sergeant major in the military police of the castle, and we used to run the security for the Edinburgh Tattoo. It was a blue ceremonial, one of the best times of my life. But standing under the East Stand, so the East Stand is at the bottom of the Esplanade. You've got the two stands at the north and top. The East Stand is at the very, very bottom, and the mass pipes and drums coming out because it's such a small area. The Esplanade. It's amazing how you get so many thousands of people into it, let alone parking the buses and things. Absolutely incredible. But all the mass pipes. The pipes and the bands coming out at the end of every single tattoo every night to Scotland the Brave and the Black Bear is one of those things. And the day I die, when I look back on my final breath, it is that moment there, because that still gives me goosebumps, when I think about the memory we had there. So, for me, and the parties, because our mess was in the castle as well. So, Jesus, I need to do I need to do a couple of lives just on, maybe not actually.
My last trip to Murrayfield was the Scotland-England match. I do a lot of time I get to go to matches live, so that wasn't as much fun because it was absolute. Well, Dreich would be.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
it was honking weather. But yeah, so I'm hoping to get back there soon. Back into the stadium, back up at that tiny little press deck. But here we go, boys. Kick it off.
Yeah. We're on. I will try not to look amazed because I am on Virgin Player, and we worked out last week that I am about 52 seconds behind the rest of the world watching it on my large monitor here. So as you lot get excited, it means that I can either build myself up and get excited or be dismayed in the next 52 seconds that follow after that. But let's have a great game. Hopefully there's no injuries and it all goes really, really great. We have a great game of rugby.
Yeah, I think one thing we have to mention just before we properly kick off is the injury to Jack Willis, I believe, for England. It looked like a really serious injury, so obviously we wish him all the best, and
we
don't want to see that in rugby. Looks quite a bad injury, and we hope it's not as serious as it looks, but unfortunately it didn't look too good. But we wish him all the best for sure.
Sure, we really will.
Yeah. Oh, I'm freezing cold just watching this. It just looks like I've never seen so many rugby players. Like Dan Bigger had gloves on during the anthems. Like it must be
They're all wearing khakis as well, weren't they?
I think they've said it's going to feel like -6 out on the pitch.
But we've won the first penalty at the scrum, it seems, which is good.
Yeah, I think that's one thing with that. One thing that you want early on against the Scots, if you think back to the autumn game, our set piece, we fell to pieces. We couldn't get anything at scrum. Our line-out was appalling. So I think the quicker that we can get into this game set piece-wise is going to be the better. I think the first line-out is going to be a big test now. Me and Brandon were saying that our line-out just seemed to have no coordination last week. And in retrospect, Scotland's line-out was so accurate. It was fantastic.
You've just lost it. You've just lost your line-out there.
Yeah, I must be a little bit behind.
Yeah, the line-out for Scotland has been a bit of an issue recently, but especially when I've seen George Turner playing for Glasgow, his arrows aren't always great. But I mean, last week it was 100%. So Scott Cummings is an outstanding line-out player, and he's become a real Lions bolter. I feel he's played something like 14, 15 games in a row for Scotland. So, he's a cracking player. He broke through about 3 seasons ago, and he's athletic for a lock. He's one of the few guys one of the few Scotland forwards who looks to run onto the ball when he carries. So I'm a big fan of his. Oh, there's another penalty at Wales.
I was a big fan a few years back of Toulis in the second row for Scotland. I think he was another one of those players that came onto the ball at a real pace. And if you looked at the England game today, the players that were the most effective, the players like Sinclair and Itoje, who are coming onto the ball at pace. I think that's the way the game is going now. Forwards have got to be so much more agile to get into those wider channels to play the ball. But yeah, it's an interesting one because looking at our pack today, other than Wainwright and Faletau, I don't see massive carriers in that pack. There are workhorses in there that'll tackle well into the late stages of the game, but carrying wise, it's going to take the likes of Ken Owens today to really get that forward pack moving.
There we go. Jacobus Johannes Jan Christian Young. Well, I tell you what, people change their name profiles now just because I've said I want to see the longest name in the world going. And Jacobus, welcome, Jacobus, if that's your real name. Jesus, I'm the 4Js. 4J is on. We like that. 2 Welshmen, a Scotsman and an Irishman watching the game of rugby, while a South African watches them watching what's happening in this world. I tell you what's happening. Jesus. 4J, we're keeping going, fella. That's what we're doing.
Well, it's here, which is good to see. I mean, we're not really making much ground, but we won our line now, so that's a positive. We got the ball. Oh no, we got it back. It's okay. We got it back. Outside the 22 though now.
Well, you say it's okay. I don't think it's.
I'm not the biggest fan of Gareth Davis. I think his his speed of ball is really slow compared to Thomas Williams, and I think that's going to be a massive miss for us today. He just doesn't understand when to speed the game up when it's go time. He doesn't get that, and it's so frustrating. I thought Varney again for Italy today just sped the game.
Yeah.
I think that he's 19 and he's born in Wales, and yet we've got Lloyd Williams and Kieran Hardy in the squad over this guy. It's mind-blowing.
I really like the look of that 9-10 combination for Italy today. Like, yeah, they weren't successful all the time, but Varney and Garbisi, they really are like the decision making for two young guys in that Italian backline, and the two centres as well. I thought the two centres were really, really impressive today.
But it goes back to against what we were talking before the game offline. Is that the fact that the youngsters, they go out to play. They don't care. There's no like Louis Samuel last week. Is him saying? Ben was saying his eyes are head down. They go out to play. They're not. No disrespect to a coach. They're not conditioned yet because they're young and they just run and play rugby. One of the best games we've seen in recent times was when Ulster A beat Leinster A few weeks ago. And it was just all out. It was almost Southern Hemisphere style rugby. They just love to get out there and play and run. And there's no stifled approach to it. And I think that's really, really good. I was impressed with Italy again today, man. Trying, people slating them off. And it's like, for me, the kicking, what was going on actually on the rugby side, what was going on with the kicking was just woeful. And the defence at times was dreadful. If they could, because it's like if you could improve the defense by say 15 or 20%, then exponentially the whole game overall, it doesn't increase 10 or 15% by because that's improved 10, 15%. It exponentially improves it all because their attack and they're going for the 18 minutes and they keep going. And I think there's some great play in this week. I really do. I'm liking what Franco Smith is doing. He's just lining it up for me. We were talking about this, like my brother and my mate Dave. We were talking about this during the Italian game. People saying like they don't deserve their place in the Six Nations is really harsh because you look today, you have an interception try where Italy are looking promising on the attack. That resulted in 7 points. Then you look at the Elliot Daly try towards the end. It's a simple defensive lapse, and Elliot Daly is left free on the wing. That's 14 points. What did they lose by overall? I didn't see the final score. I was coming up ready for this, but they didn't lose by much more than it was 48-18, was it? In the end?
21 points, 20-something points. So, when you look at it in that respect, and 14 of those points for a side that should be defending us, it's a much closer game, And when we talked on Thursday, Deb was saying about, England are going to score tries, but Italy are as well. I think that last try for Italy showed just what they can do off first phase. They crashed through support line from Tommaso Allen and great finish. So,
great to see Tommy Allen scoring a try today. The last link back to the last win they ever had, which against Scotland, I think. Ian?
Sorry, was that? I missed that last part there.
The last time Italy won a game was against Scotland.
The
last link back to that today was Tommy Allen, a Scotlander, half Scottish, half Italian. Where would Scotland be without Italian ice cream? In fact, they should make a film about that. And it's saying my age now. There's a film with the I had my name there. It's gone now. What was the film about the ice cream wars in Scotland years ago with Bill? It was a trilogy of films. Bill Patterson played in it. It'll come back to me now. Great. There's a film I need to go back and watch. Throwback Thursday film.
What a kick that is from Finn Russell, by the way. Scotland just won a penalty. And it's a great kick into our 22.
Yeah, and they've, I thought that's definitely within hog range. So it's a bold move from Scotland.
Jimmy Hogg had a great game last week, Ian. I was really, really impressed.
Yeah, I think that's definitely his best game since he was captain and one of his best games in years. The way he attacked the English line. He didn't make any mistakes because he had made a few errors, and I've at times wondered if maybe the burden of captaincy is a bit too much for him.
Sure.
because he's trying to do everything himself, especially without Finn being there due to the incident last year, shall we just call it? But yeah, that was an excellent performance from Hogg last week. I mean, Cammy Redpath would have walked into a man of match performance if it wasn't for Stuart Hogg.
Absolutely. Just looking at some of the comments there, Brandon. Johannes Jan Christian Young says it is my real name, and then he adds further down below, that's my mum's nickname. I called him 4JB4, so that should suffice. Thanks. You're welcome. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and join us in the group. You're more than
Lee Halfpenny just seems to have picked a fight with Duhan. I don't think that's a good idea, man. Have you seen
Go Valley Price. Go Valley Price. Don't go for him. He's massive.
That's the one that always gets me. Like towards the sort of the second third of the England-Italy game, it seemed like every scrum was resulting in like a little grapple.
What was Farrell doing? He's just piss off. He's not captain material in my opinion. I'm not hating on the guy, but he just doesn't keep his head. And I think he was really lucky to be on the pitch. Not to be on the pitch. I think it was definitely a penalty on Varney because it was late for me, and I didn't see enough wrapping around there. He's just not captain material for me personally.
I think he's a player who's in a rut at the moment. You know, he's playing for a club side that he hasn't been able to play for however long it's been now. And he's definitely a player that's, you know, you look today, the amount of times that he's looking to make that pass, you know, the instance with the Johnny Hill pass, they said, oh, that's not Farrell's fault, that's a poor pass. I think Farrell is looking to come onto that and pick that up because he wants to try and make something. He's looking to get himself into the game, and he is struggling at the moment. I think similar to the Warburton situation a few years ago. I think maybe take the captaincy off him, give it to one of those players like Itoje, give it to you know, one of the boys and let him play his game.
It goes back to what Ian said before. Captaincy in many sports affects the overall quality of how some people play. It's like in any industry, leadership. Sometimes, you know, you give somebody a position, and it doesn't necessarily sort of tie up. So, just going back to a point there that Conor Broomfield from Four Provinces Rugby, who is co-host of our Leinster Line, the Leinster Rugby Roundup show. Gobby seems to tighten up his clearance kicks, otherwise he's class. Yeah, he is. The kicking today, though, mate, that was a real letdown. And that didn't really sort of help the situation at all. Who else have we got on the show today, Brandon? We've got Ilse van Staden. Ilse, a former women's prop for Ireland. South African born, played 100 times for the Blue Bulls, and still playing for Ulster and for Cook. Scotland need to keep their penalty count in check.
Yeah, that was one thing last week, man. I think we only conceded 6 penalties last week, whereas previously, I think the 6 editions before we conceded the most. So yeah, because England wrapped up, I think there was 4 or 5 within the first 20 minutes that ended up seeing Billy V sent to the bin, which ruined my fantasy team score, by the way. I should have picked Hamish Watson. I left him on the bench.
Did you?
I know, like an idiot. But my back line was Stander, Aldrich, Viripola. Yeah. So this week I've taken Stander out and Watson.
Jesus, isn't Billy looking huge? I mean, I'm going to hang around with Billy because I'm looking svelte like. I don't know about a certain Irishman eating all the croissants out over there in France. And he should never be mentioned, you know, because I'll upset somebody if we mention Simon Tebow says he eats all the croissants. But there we go. Gerald Williamson. Gerald, good afternoon to you. Come on, Scotland. Oh, I've got Wales. He knows that. But Billy was looking big today. Billy Runabullah is carrying a lot of weight. I thought last week against Scotland, and again, it wasn't so publicly that it wasn't to detract from how well Scotland played last week. But I think that a lot of the penalty count for England was massive. And I think that the lack of playing by a lot of players, it's that sort of match fitness and a couple of seconds, which then, you know, if you're a second late, it's that leading to that penalty, it's leading to those mistakes.
So, like, just Blade Thompson's not had enough concussion issues for an HIA after George Turner's kneed him in the head.
No, I was going to just put the question to the three of you then. Like, looking at George Turner then, the speed he comes through at, obviously we had the Jack Willis injury in the last game related to ruck clear-out. For me, I think that World Rugby definitely need to tighten up on what is classed as going off the feet at the ruck and what is classed as a clear-out. Because for me, George Turner there, he's got no intention of staying on his feet. He's come flying in at such a speed he's never going to.
Did you see the Autumn Nations Cup Ireland-Scotland game? There was a clear-out on, I can't remember who it was, but it was Andrew Porter and I think Tyburn came flying in, had no intention of staying on their feet. And then it was retweeted by Murray Kinsella, who was a very good journalist, but he kind of sped the clip up. So it looked like it wasn't as dangerous as it was, but there was no attempt to stay on their feet. And it did look a wee bit dodgy. But there's that and the croc roll. That's something that Alan Dimmick, who
that's a great rip from Watkin. What a rip from Watkin!
I think it's still a massive problem. I mean, I think it was early last year, or something within the first half of the year. So, World Rugby did change the rules on laws 14 and 15 on the rucking and clear out, but the whole crocodile roll, judo roll. Type thing is an issue. I'll tell you what else is going to be an issue. We've gone from the high tackles now, and we're going to go low. But these chop tackles, they're going to break. They are hugely dangerous. We think they're very exciting at the moment, and even people like Caelan Doris is brilliant at it. But
idiots,
you hit people on the knee. You hit people on the knee, and it's just they're going to be out of the game completely good. I think the likes of Caelan Dobbs is very proficient at how he does it technique-wise, but there's going to be people who are doing that, and I think that's going to be the next problem. And we're then going to be left with two high tackles, chop tackles will be out. So how do you tackle? You go back to the old-fashioned of cheek on cheek.
I agree completely, because when Lydiate first came around with the chop tackle, I always think that the chop tackle, the best defined, is in that French Grand Slam game back in 2012, when he got the Man of the Match award against France, and the only try of the game, the Cuthbert try, he tackles Haran Ordiki, I think it is. And he's literally got hold of the balls of his ankle. He's grabbed him that low. And like you said, that's going to cause so many injuries down the line.
Absolutely right. Just going back to a comment there from Brandon from 4J, who has now subscribed. I'm not sure what that's to subscribe. Yes, excellent. Well done, mate. 4J is now subscribed. Nice to be part of Northern Rugby community. You'll have it even more soon. Two reasons. One is because the 4 teams are coming part of the Pro 16. And we also, part of the ThreeBOD Rugby Group, we have a fortnightly Springbok and South African rugby roundup show called ThreeBOD at Ball and Blitzpod. So feel free to watch us on that as well. Once you'll get notifications from the channel. But welcome to the team, 4J. Thank you.
So, tell you what, Chris Harris has looked a bit lively.
He's broken through a lot, hasn't he?
He's running hard and straight.
I think one thing we're doing, which is a bit, I don't know, I think Tompkins he's running in and Scotland are targeting him quite high up, and then he's getting caught and held up a lot of the time. And Scotland seem to be winning the physical battle at the minute. Although our defence has looked okay, it is a bit worrying when Harris is absolutely bursting through and Tompkins is flat on his face. It is a bit worrying, but...
there was a lot of sort of furore online about George North last week in the centre, and our good friend Ian Gilbert, our ambassador out there from Ulster, out there in Madrid, gave I think the best.
Lovely Wyn Jones. Sorry, just stole the line out.
See. On North equals centre, true North equals winger, which I thought was absolutely classic. But there was a lot of furore online about where George North's playing in the centre. Ben, what would be your favoured centred partnership, and is George North at his age with all the issues he's had, or is Wayne Pivac just trying to use it as an interim measure and to bolster a little bit of power in the centre? Was that his rationale?
I think he's sort of going back to, like, within a certain extent, he's going back to the sort of Roberts and Jonathan Davis partnership of a few years ago. You've got that option of a centre that's going to punch holes, but then you've also got an option of a centre then that's going to create. So I definitely think that George North as a centre is a really good option. Whether it's going to be a permanent position, we don't know. But definitely...
Oh, that's a lovely little dink. Oh, DG back in the house. Darcy Graham back.
How quick does our defence want to rush up? Our defence has gone flying for that. It's a lovely dink, don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful dink, but our defence has just rushed up. It's good awareness from Finn Russell there to see that the defence is rushing, but that try's been coming. It's been coming. Scotland have just been breaking our defensive line time and time again, and the speed that they're recycling the ball. Sorry, it's Andy Price who does the kick. My bad, but it's a lovely little dink over the top.
Price off his right foot as well. Right, Price is left foot. That's perfectly weighted. That's a superb try.
It's a very good try. I like Dodgstrom. I think he's a good player. A bit similar to Shane style.
I'm just obviously, as you can see, I'm 52 seconds behind. I'm just thinking, oh! What's this top one?
Sorry, might have got a bit excited there, boys, but that's a lovely try.
It is.
Oh, so I really get excited and build myself up. What is coming.
For me, that's a very looking at it from the region's perspective. That's something that Jared Evans and Thomas Williams have perfected for the Blues. That taking the ball flat to the line and dinking just in behind, but only enough so that the chasing player can collect it. And I think Ali Price there, that's superb vision. Really, really good vision.
But again, goes back to what we said at the beginning of the show. This whole thing about when countries, when teams like Ireland were still scrapping around to find who was our first choice 9 and 10, looking out to 23 for the Rugby World Cup and beyond. And I said that I always get the impression as an outsider that Ali Price and Finn Russell's partnership is almost that synergy. And he was saying that they're good friends on and off the park, So I think that it's that understanding. Almost in what you're doing. Ali Price never seems to look around him. He just knows where people are, and people know almost what he's going to do.
He had when Townsend took over, Greg Laidlaw was still the sort of incumbent 9, but obviously Scotland with Townsend wanted to play a faster game, so Price came in, but then he had that kind of horror show down at I think it was still called the Millennium or the Principality, which dented his confidence for a while, but he seems to be back now, back to good form. And like you said, with him and Finn, are they a potential Lions combo? Because
I was just going to say, we are still scrapping around looking at who is the best 9 for starting at for the Lions when it comes off. And if you're putting Finn at number 1. If you're putting Finn as the top 3 10s in the world, and you're putting him as the number 1 in the Northern Hemisphere, notwithstanding what a certain French God learn the terms. But yeah, for a Lions starting pair 9-10, why wouldn't you? I think you've got to say why wouldn't you as to why would you? Because it's an established partnership.
I wouldn't play Ali Price at 9 for the Lions.
Would you not?
No, Thomas Williams for me personally.
There we go then. Why?
Speeds the game up a lot more. I think he'd suit Finn Russell, what he's trying to do. The problem with Finn is if you start him, who do you have on the bench as a 10? Because I was speaking to Jeff from Harping on Rugby, and he's like, if Farrell doesn't start at 10, which I don't think he will now, but if he doesn't start at 10, do you have him on the bench? Because what does he bring off the bench? Does he bring anything from being on the bench, which he probably doesn't? I don't know. Finn Russell he's fantastic. He's world class. He's probably the best attacking fly half in the world. But sometimes his passes don't quite come off. And I'd be worried whether I don't know, it's a bit risky, isn't it? But again, Bigger hasn't been playing well recently. Anscombe won't have played enough rugby at all to be anywhere near the squad. Sexton, I personally wouldn't want him near the starting team. So yeah, I don't know, but I wouldn't start with Ali Price. I don't think so.
Okay, fair enough. I'm just looking at you get a piss taken at me for wearing a red jersey. I'll change at half time, lads, so I can just spread the love a little bit. But 4J's just put up a comment there. It's a little time. I'm more fortunate in South Africa. I'm more than 3 minutes behind in the live action. Watching the stream is like knowing the future. It must be like an episode of Life on Mars or Ashes and Matches.
Well, I should have worn my red Back to the Future T-shirt just to fit in with the colour scheme of the rest of you. And
I'll change at half time, mate, and then when we come back in, we'll quarter them off and we'll have a bit more Scottish love.
Scotland are really winning the battle like the physical battle. They just get Duhan van der Merwe is just tearing through us. He really
I really do like Duhan.
The first time I saw Duhan van der Merwe was Edinburgh Glasgow game, and he swatted Alex Dunbar away like a fly. And Alex Dunbar is a big lad.
A stocky, powerful fellow,
yeah.
Isn't he?
You know, he's good farmer stock, him. And Duhan was just like, slap. Like, you're like, oh my God, Edinburgh signed a monster. Because I'm a Glasgow fan, so it's just we're in trouble.
There's another bolter for the Lions.
Oh, I think definitely. You can't ignore him.
Oh.
I think looking at it, like if the Lions tour goes ahead, would not surprise me if Scotland's contingency in that Lions squad is higher than Wales is, or potentially, if you're looking at form at the minute, wouldn't mind betting that Wales and Ireland are dominated by Scots in that squad. You know, for me, you take the back part of that Scottish scrum, I think they all go on that Lions tour at the minute. Everybody from 4 all the way to 8. You know, Matt Fagerson, for me, he's such an underrated player. He gets through so much work and he's never recognised.
Thank you. I love Matt Fagerson, right? And people going, oh, he's too small for an international number 8. Shut up. Right? Look at how much work he gets through.
Listen, what was freaking CJ Standard told in South Africa? He was too small, he could make this, he could make that.
Yeah.
And
Matt
now,
Fagerson's
8 to 6. And,
same with Simmons at Exeter, who's for some reason not getting picked by England. You like, the guy's like European player.
Unbelievable. Yeah, we've had the conversation in the group. Why he isn't getting picked is absolutely.
Oh, that's a nice set piece.
Dangerous.
That's a nice set piece move. Oh, go on, Hoggy.
Oh my God! What have you done? What have you done?
I'm like 4J. I'm about a minute behind, but I know what's coming, mate. When I go, then you can build yourself up for that.
Oh, for goodness sake!
I'm just on the scrum. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to today's Gogglebox #MatchWatch Scotland versus Wales, courtesy of the three blokes, Paul and Bob.
So bad.
Joe, as part of the ThreeBOD Rugby Group. And yes, you are watching the game, and we're all in different time zones. So it's great being able to watch things as they happen again and again.
Hoffman and Zamet, they both are going for it. They don't hold one another.
Lovely handling.
Nice Paul.
Another little kick through again.
The big issue from there, though.
Oh, yeah.
The big issue there is Halfpenny is left to defend 2 men on his own. Nobody's covering there. Zamet is on the other side of the field, and he really should have come across much earlier for that. But so Lee Halfpenny's then defending Hogg, and I think it's Darcy Graham. Maybe I'm wrong there. And then obviously the mistake is made, and
you've carried on.
We need to get the next score, otherwise it's game over.
Yeah, if Wales don't get back into this game soon, it's going to be a cricket score.
Yeah. What I do like about how Scotland are playing last week, and like I say, they've just continued where they left off against England, is it's just some exciting open play. They're not afraid to try things, and there's a lot of gelling there together. You know, it's not individual brilliance. There's a great team. There's a great team approach there. You can see that. It just feels natural.
I think Sorry, Ian. Go on. You were beating us. You go first.
Obviously, the World Cup for Scotland was a bit of a disaster. But since Steve Handy's come in, sorted out our defensive issues, that's great. But you always get the sense whenever I'm on press conference calls, this is a team who genuinely like each other and want to improve.
Sure.
Yesterday I was on a call with the assistant coach of one of the forwards coach, John DL, and he was saying, these are a bunch of pretty young squad usually, who want to learn and grow together. And there is this definite cohesion. And we're now seeing a happy team and a confident team littered with a couple of world-class players who are hopefully turning the corner. You know, I've seen so many false dawns as a Scotland fan.
Good scrum, but what? How's that not out?
Oh, has he called it for walking round?
Why does Gareth Davis keep the ball in there for that long, man? Just get it out, you muppet.
See, that's where your scrum half needs to be reading the game. You know, if that's any other 9 in World Rugby, you can see the scrum is starting to go. Get that ball out of there, even if the move isn't on. Get rid of it. You know, if that's Dupont there, he's gone off on his own somewhere just because he wants to keep that ball alive. That's shocking. That's absolutely shocking.
Well, the thing is that Scotland have given us an opportunity straight after we concede a try to try and build something. And, you know, we're half an hour in. We've not looked like scoring at all. We're losing the physical battle. Our lineouts looked a little bit better, and Scotland have been all over us.
We've
won the lineout. We've won the lineout.
Have we pinched one? Have we actually won a lineout against the head?
Yeah, it wasn't a good throw. It was far too low. If you're looking for like someone like
speed.
Alan Wynne didn't even have to get off the floor for that.
Slap.
But that was an interesting one last week. When they were talking about, you know, George Turner, in reality, he is third choice Scottish hooker. And I thought his darts last week were superb. He really did well.
Played half game.
Oh, for goodness sake, like clumsy forwards.
Yeah.
Hoggy's away. Hoggy's away.
Come on, stop him. Thank you.
Look at Turner taking that on. Good tackle tips.
This is going to be.
There's Finn.
Good interception.
Nice. Counter. Well done.
Oh, you hit.
Knock on, but
it's quite interesting, isn't it? Matty Sabin isn't that big, but his positioning and his tactical awareness is very, very good. When you watch him, everybody goes on about you need to be a certain size for this and a certain size for that, like you said before. But he's almost a back. It's not even it's like the same size as someone like Josh van der Fleer, but for an 8, I think his tactical awareness and his play is superb.
But when he came through at Glasgow, Gregor Townsend wasn't sure exactly what, because he was only 18. So Gregor Townsend, he might take a growth spurt, so we're not sure what his best position in the back row will be.
Okay.
So he's not exactly grown in height, but like we were saying there, people say he's too small for an 8. But his work rate is phenomenal. Mind that game when Glasgow beat Leinster at the RDS and Johnny Gray made 42 tackles. Matt Fagerson made 34. Which I think is like fourth on the all-time list.
Incredible.
Yeah, I think that's why I think someone like Sam Simmons for England definitely, like you say, he's almost like a back. So in those facets, why are they not choosing a player that could unlock defenses like that? Someone that is so quick that he's almost like outpacing wingers.
They're almost like 7.5s. People talk about like the sort of dual open size system a lot of teams use. Like Fagerson's almost like a 7-8. And I've always rated him, and I was so happy he had a great game last week.
We were discussing this the other week about the fact the whole interoperability piece from the back. So we talked about sort of James Lang, sort of fly half at the Queen's Academy, fly half and centre. Where's the best position? There's an awful lot more than that in the modern team.
Good carry walking.
You look at Courtney Laws today. What's his preferred position above where Eddie wants to play?
It's interesting you mentioned the Courtney Laws thing, because for me, that selection of Courtney Laws in that back row, that's a panic selection. Why would you choose Courtney Laws over Jack Willis or Ben Earl? I don't understand that whatsoever. Really don't get it.
It's a known entity for Eddie, and maybe Eddie's beginning to get caught out a little bit. Because again, you go back to the whole Simmons bit, and you go back to the thought of whether Owen Farrell should actually be starting at 10 or at 12 when you look at some of the player availability for England. And yet, we got the same problem in Ireland. I wasn't even a world-class player, let alone a world-class coach. So, you've got to give it to the likes of Eddie or Andy Farrell and people like that, and the choices that they make. But I don't understand the.
Oh, he's tackled him in the air.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a tackle in there, isn't it?
Why? He's so experienced, Halfpenny. Why is he doing such stupid stuff?
Oh, hold on. Hang on a minute.
Oh, sorry, he's not. I don't know. With so many handling errors from us, I'm sure we've knocked the ball on 3 or 4 times at least now. But I think Duan van der Merwe down here.
It's Darcy.
Darcy going. But in the news today, Cooney's been called up to the Islands squad, hasn't he? And Harry Byrne, if I'm correct in saying that. So
yeah, good.
Yes, so they've been called up. So, but the thing is with Cooney, I think Cooney's brilliant, but does he suit the way Ireland want to play? He just doesn't suit that, does he? So,
wow.
So, he's a great player, and he speeds the game up. And he's the form 9 in the profile team, probably the second best behind Dupont in Europe at the minute. But again, does he suit the style? But again, we're just so many unforced errors from us, and we're just letting Scotland into the game here way too much. And
because it's so cold, their hands are frozen.
This is what we were talking about the other day, Brandon. It affects. I've said a few times now about just getting something going. But the mistakes, it kills the game. You think back to that game at Parc y Scarlets against Scotland in the autumn, and fair play to Scotland that day. They won the game and deservedly so. But you look at the number of mistakes that Wales are making, just basic mistakes. Handling errors are up way too high for an international outfit. Missed tackles, things like that. These are things that if you haven't got those in place, nothing else is going to work. And you look at Scotland, it just seems that everybody's singing off the same song sheet. If Hogg's putting a kick through, the 2 wingers are already chasing after it. It's really frustrating to watch at the minute because it just looks like we've got no idea where we're going.
It's interesting on comment I made before about how Scotland looked very gelled as a team. I was really expecting something different from Wales this week. That's why I picked them to because it would have been easy to pick Scotland. After how well they played last week, but I thought that Wales would really sort of gel. But there's nothing there. It's almost like there's 15 individuals. Where if you look player for player on paper, you'd say that Wales had the better team, and yet Scotland, as Ian said before, real class players, and yet, but there's a team. Greg is building a team there. Sorry, Bran. Ian, do you think that resolving the issue with Finn has really helped to cement the whole team?
Go on, Willis.
Definitely. I think apparently once he got kicked out of the squad, Finn Russell did an interview with Mark Palmer at the Times, and he'd said that he'd put his hand up for the captaincy.
Really?
So yeah, and this is like we all think of Finn as the sort of wee daft lad and all that, but this is a very smart rugby player and a very, very calm man as well. Few people look at him smiling when he makes mistakes, and some people get raging like, "What you'd rather he was scowling like Owen Farrell all the time." No, but he's a very confident man and a wonderful player, and I think that given that there's been a bit of time off, him and Hogg obviously want to do the best for Scotland, and they're both excellent players and want to be go-to guys. I think they've settled their differences, and now I think we're definitely benefiting from that because here we are on the attack again. I mean,
I think for a head injury assessment, Willis Halaholo is on. Sorry, bud.
I think if you're talking about there with Hogg, I think last Six Nations he early on in the early rounds there was a couple of mistakes, and I think it just shows the resolve of him that even as captain he comes back against Italy, scores a fantastic try, and for a player of his standard, that really kick-started his improvement then, and he started to grow from there. And I think that one of the best things that has happened to him is playing for Chiefs. That installing that winner's mentality in him, and Johnny Gray has come across now as well. But yeah, they've got that attitude. And looking at them now, in Scottish sides gone by, there's always been that thing of they could win, but they didn't have the belief in themselves. I think now, like with the likes of Hogg in that senior leadership team, Johnny Gray, they're installing that sense of belief. And and looking at the Scottish team at the minute, they're not afraid of anything. They went down to Twickenham and absolutely spanked England.
Yep.
And it just goes to show it's whatever they're doing is working really well.
Yeah, we got a massive turnover there, which is huge for us, and I was quite worried on that attack. Then I think we need to try and get some points on the board before half time. We just need a bit of ball. We haven't had much ball, and Tompkins, bless him, has really struggled. But I'm not sure how this backline's looking now. I assume Liam Williams has gone to fullback, but I'm not really sure where Halaholo's fitting in or where everyone's gone.
From what I can see, it looks like he's lining up at 12.
So
it looks like.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's gone onto the wing. Williams has gone to fullback. But we're getting on the right side of the ref now, though, which is good. We've had 2-3 penalties on the bounce.
It's a massive turnover from Wyn Jones there.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that like Wyn Jones has really got going for him. A lot of the Welsh props at the minute, they're still like trying to work out what the best front row options are. Some games Francis is playing, other games, you've got the likes of they got the likes of Rhys Carey and like that coming in. They still haven't worked out their best front row. But I think the one thing Wyn Jones gives you is that ability to turn over, very similar to like Gethin Jenkins used to. From nothing, you wouldn't expect it of him, but he's in there turning over.
I don't begrudge him when the man of the player of the match last week, but I don't think he was the player of the match.
No,
but he showed a lot of consistency there that I didn't really know him that well. I hadn't seen enough of him, but I was impressed with him.
It's a heck of a hit, that, isn't it, on Tompkins? That's a heck of a hit.
That was a
from the high tackle there. So we need to come away with something before half time here. We've got to come away with something. But the Scottish defence has been really, really good. The way you've kept your line, you've kept your position. I
think we should be allowed like a hockey sub here for a set play and get Richie Gray on, because he can't throw the ball over his head, can you?
What's your opinions on Chris Harris? Because I know that he's been in and out of the Scottish side over the last few years, and some people's opinions on him change. But like I personally, I've watched a lot of him play for Gloucester. He's a decent little player, isn't he? What do you stand on him?
A lot of Scotland players had slagged him initially. His first 2 caps, he wasn't great. But what he has done at playing at outside centre is he has solidified that midfield area. So he's primarily sort of been thought of as a defensive option.
One more. Go on, Sammy! Yes! Come on! Get in there! Louis McCammon.
For those of you watching the show live, you'll see there's no reaction from me. I'm 52 seconds behind, which is not as bad as poor old Paul in South Africa is 3.5 minutes behind. So as
yes, come on!
Tompkins actually does really well.
Behind him.
It's a good step.
Tompkins does really well to get that off.
Yeah, that's good hold-up play. I know he probably wouldn't
before half time.
Oh, lovely step. See you later. Oh, beautiful.
That is fantastic hold-up play. It probably wasn't the way he wanted it to go, but you look, he's brought 2 defenders onto him there, Tompkins. You look, ball in hand here, he swivels around, he's drawn Duhan van der Merwe in, which leaves him short on the outside. And I don't care. I don't care who you've got covering.
Come on.
The only man that's going to stop him on the outside there is probably Tadhg Furlong, the speed coming across. But yeah, Darcy Graham has got so much work to do there. This kid,
it's a bit like Anthony Watson's today, which everybody goes on about Johnny May's sort of acrobatic play. But Anthony Watson's, when I watched it back again, a little sort of back step and inside for 2, just superb, and that's exactly the same. Great offload. Look at that! He just knows. Do you know what you were saying before about the fact that last week when Ty Furlong tried to stop him, he was just eyes down for the. Obviously, his periphery vision, because he was looking straight ahead, but he obviously saw something. And you just see him, just that. It's that. I don't even know. I don't think I ever have that speed of.
Well,
to do that.
I think Johnny May was taking out a page out of Rhys Sammett's book today. It was very much anything you can do, I can do better. I don't think he must have been up in the air for a good 3 seconds before he came back down. It was
interestingly, there was voice of bod Conor Cronin was saying in on Rugby Group that we have about the fact there's actually rules there for being able to go in the air, because actually it was a little bit closer. He would have kicked your man in the head. And it was purposely. It was purposely to avoid the tackle, but by Clinton. But there is actually a rule about which I didn't realise. But it was a very well taken try.
Come on, just kick this off now. Nothing silly. Let's just get it off. We'll take this at half time.
Rhys Sammett looks like he's on a kiddie educational sort of work schemes, doesn't he?
Work experience.
So that was half time. I don't suppose any of you guys saw the Glasgow-Edinburgh game a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
See,
no, I think
like there's a train line that runs behind Scotstoun Stadium.
Yeah. And
there was like 20 seconds left, and the train driver blew his horn. The Edinburgh scrum half thought that was half time, kicked it out. I was like, all right, line out Glasgow, and we ended up we got a penalty from it. And we
lost the game
by a point. We won the game by a point in the end.
Really?
Yeah, that train driver should get a pay rise, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I think Wales have got to consider themselves extremely lucky that they're only 9 points behind. And one of my mates said to me the other day, he said, "You're speaking on Wales's behalf on these shows, and you're absolutely slamming them." And I said, I don't do it on purpose. I can assure you, I don't do it on purpose. But the biggest thing for me at the minute is it is frustrating as a Welsh fan that's watched Wales for as many years as I can remember. It just seems at the minute that we've got all the ingredients there to make something special, but we got no recipe to follow. And, looking at the stats there, we've made 152 metres less than Scotland. Both sides have made the same amount of handling errors. It is extremely frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully for Jay, you've caught up with us now. It is half time. And just a real good comeback there. We've lost Brandon for just a second. I think he's just nipped off.
Sorry, lads, do you mind if I pause for half time and do a wee bit of my report here?
Absolutely.
Cool?
We'll see you back in the...
I will be back in 5. All right.
Good man, no problem at all.
Cheers, lads.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. Big Joe Shepp here, fan and chief bloke at the ThreeBOD Rugby Group. I'm joined today from the Scottish Rugby podcast by Ian Hay, who's just popped up because he's dual casting at the moment. So he'll be back and join us in just a couple of minutes' time. And he's done his half-time report. I'm also joined today behind the controls of everything that's going on from Brandon Smith Rugby on YouTube, who is also one of our 3-person team that runs our Welsh Rugby Roundup show for the ThreeBOD Rugby Group, the Dragon Balls. It is Brandon Smith. Good man yourself. Well done. Thank you for putting this together today. And he, in turn, is joined by our good man, Ben Coles, who has just been giving us some insights and telling us why he's been getting slated for slating Wales. He hasn't. He's practical. It's a bit like when people turn around and say, why have I got a downer on Johnny Sexton? I don't. He is a world-class player. He's coming towards the autumn of his career. And all I ever do, like Ben does, like Brandon does, is we look at where we want our sides to be a couple of years down the line. For us, it's all about France 23. So there we go. But you're welcome to today's show, brought to you by Three Blokes of Ball and Bod, part of the ThreeBOD Rugby Group. And thank you for everybody who has joined us. Dave Topping, I saw before that you've moved to YouTube because you were having some issues there with our good friends on Facebook. Well, we've had a good couple of weeks to be sure, haven't we? We hope you're enjoying the gig today, guys. It is our second in our series of 5 Gogglebox or hashtag match watchers, where we've got fans of the two teams on. I host for you, and I am going to go and change my red jersey now to equal up a little bit. on the second half, where we watch the game and you watch us, and we have all a bit of crack, and you give us your own thoughts and opinions. However, one of the exciting things about it is the fact that one of us is on real time, another one's 14 seconds behind, another one seems to be about 80 seconds. I'm 52 seconds behind, and poor old 4J in South Africa. Poor old 4J, it's about 3 minutes behind. So just adds the little bit of crack as we're going. But you're welcome to the show. What are you thinking about it? What are you thinking about the Six Nations? There are people who've turned around and said that the Six Nations should be going ahead this year. And that with everything that's going on, for me personally, I think that sport, like music, like comedy, everything, it lifts everybody in a time of adversity. So as long as we have precautions put in place, I think it's good that we have some sport going ahead. Let's look at what we got the stats there, Bran, for the first half.
Yes, we do.
We do. Look at it. Yeah, our man's all over this. While he puts them on, I'm going to nip off for a bit of a constitutional, and I'm going to go and put another jersey on. So drop me out just for a second, Bran, and I'll join you back.
There we go. So Joe is gone. Maybe a little bit of peace and quiet, but let's have a look at the stats then for the first half. I think you'd be in agreement with me, Ben. A frustrating first half, but that lifeline at the end there for us with his Louis Rees-Zammit try. So possession-wise, Scotland only just with a little bit more possession, 52% to our 48. But look at this stat. The territory is the big thing. Scotland, 71% territory. They're playing in the right areas of the pitch. They for sure are. But look at this. We've had more time in possession, 10 minutes and 3 seconds compared to Scotland's 4 minutes. But then this is the big stat, isn't it? Again, 5 minutes and 14 seconds for Scotland in R22 and only 1 minute in R22. And just a couple of other things. Again, look at this. Points/visits to 22 are both on 2.0. So when we are getting into the 22, we are coming away with points, but we're just not getting into the 22 enough. That's what I'm saying to us there. Knock-ons, Wales are only at 2, but 8 handling errors, and that's something that's been really frustrating for Wales fans, for sure. We've actually been okay at the breakdown. We've only lost the 1 ruck. We've stolen it once at the breakdown, so we're not doing too bad. But Ben, what are your thoughts on that first half? How are you feeling about it? It wasn't the best start for us, but a lifeline in that Louis Rees-Zammit try, would you say?
Yeah, I think that's all that Pivac's got to do now in at halftime. He knows the stats probably quicker than we do. He knows that when we're in the 22, we're coming away with points and we're building pressure. So I think he'll be speaking to the likes of Bigger. He'll be speaking to the likes of Owen Watkin and Tompkins. Get the ball down in Scotland's half and make them play. But again, our kicking is so loose. I think at one point, midway through the first half, Bigger takes the ball, first phase ball, and is straight up in the air. And no opportunity to build anything. If we are going to kick, then kick for corners. Turn these wingers around. I think at the minute, every kick they're allowed to run onto and they're making yards, simple yards. So I think the simple thing is do what you're doing, but stop doing it in your own half. Get down in Scotland's half and do it. Like you said, our ruck success rate is really high. When we get hold of that ball, we are starting to see the opportunities. They're just rerunning the Rees-Zammit try through now, for me anyway. Yeah. Really, really simple play. Hit up ruck. Tompkins draws 2 men in. Liam Williams 2-on-1, and Rees-Zammit really good finish. So the potential is there. But we've got to starve the Scottish back three of ball. They're having such an easy time of it. Hogg, Ian mentioned earlier on, he's having a wonderful game, and he's spot on in saying it. But at the same time, we're not putting any pressure on him to make him make any mistakes. So, yeah, definitely positive takeaways from that first half. But yeah, a lot of work still needs to be done in the second half and early, I feel, because I think if Scotland get an early try here, then it could really be an uphill struggle for Wales. So for me, Wales got to come out second half. They've got to score first and play the ball in the right areas of the field. I'll be honest, I'd like to see Sheedy come on a lot earlier. I know he's inexperienced, but I think if you look at what he does for Bristol, the one thing you can say about him, he plays heads-up rugby, and that's exactly what we need today. So, yeah, hope Halfpenny's okay, and fingers crossed. I haven't heard anything yet whether they've said if that's a permanent replacement or not. But yeah, I would love to see us build on what we did towards the end of that first half.
Yeah, we played in the right areas of the pitch at the end there. We started getting success as the maul started to work, which is not something we've seen recently that much. But again, we're kicking loosely. And we said at the start, if we kick loosely to these players, to the likes of Hogg, to Darcy Graham, to Duran van der Merwe, who's had a heck of a game. He must have had 2 or 3 line breaks easily in that first half. That is a concern. But, great to see Louis Rees-Zammit get that try, and that's a lifeline that we definitely needed. We needed that so badly. Nigel Quigley, why does it take the Scots the whole of half-time to take a pee? Not like there is a line. Nigel, of course, hosts our Ulster Rugby Roundup show. So, great to have Nigel in the building. For Scotland then, Ben, what are the positives for them? I think, again, they're winning that physical battle, aren't they? Yeah,
even though we've seen the stats are quite close at the breakdown, I just think the speed of ruck is so much better. The likes of Harris and Lang in the centres, they're not having to do a great deal because the speed of ball is that quick that, Finn Russell is creating things. He's using his forwards around him. And I really like the way the Scotland are playing at the moment. Ian mentioned it earlier on. They definitely look like a team that are singing off the same hymn sheet. They've had a lot of time building together. I know they had a difficult start under Gregor Townsend, but it definitely seems to be a lot more controlled from Scotland. And I think they look dangerous. I think we need to be extremely careful towards the tail end of the second half because Scotland are going to keep going for the full 80. You saw that against England last week, and they've definitely got that in their tanks. And we mentioned a few key players for Scotland in that first half. I think Matt Fagerson really needs to have a mention because he's getting through so much work. I would love at the end of this game to see his individual stats because, again, another one of those players that does so much of the unseen work. And, yeah, he's mighty impressive for me.
Yeah, and Scotland have played in the right areas of the pitch. They've kicked they've kicked contestable kicks. That's how I feel about it. That Halfpenny took Darcy Graham out in the air. It was a contestable kick. We seem to have just kicked because we're under a little bit of pressure. And I think we're really missing the speed of Thomas Williams. I think Gareth Davis, he's been a bit quicker than he usually is, but he's just not quick enough, in my opinion. When we are on the front foot, he hasn't sped the game up enough for me. And that's something that we need to start doing. We're going to welcome Joe back in. Joe is now a neutral.
It's the closest I've got to a Scotland talk. I've just gone downstairs to top up, and I thought, you know what, I'm a bit peckish. Got homemade French onion soup for supper tonight,
nice
with cheesy garlic croutons as well. But I thought I'd get a little bit of Malbec on the go, and to keep me going, I have got, look at this, Ilse van Staden, if you're still watching, Kinako biltong, garlic biltong. From our good friends at up there in Ulster, and look at that, nom 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 nom.
Oh, nice.
Well, just fresh in yesterday, and it's all made to order. I was just absolutely stunning. So that'll keep me going. So well done. So thoughts so far, then, lads. We think you can make a comeback, Bran?
I think we can. Me and Ben were just discussing the first half and saying that actually, when we've been we looked at the stats as well. When we've been in the 22, we've come away with points. We just haven't been in the 22 enough, and we're kicking extremely loosely to this Scottish back line, which is just something that you can't afford to do. But we've started, I think, to get on the right side of the ref now. So we've won a few penalties in the breakdown and in the maul, and we're starting to go through the phases. We did speak about Gareth Davis, and the speed of ball from him hasn't quite been what we need it to be. But, simple rugby, word for a try. We went through the phases. We dragged the defenders in with Tompkins taking 2 men in. He got a lovely offload to Liam Williams, drew in the defender, Hogg once again out to Zammit, and Zammit finishes. So if we can get rid of these silly little errors that we seem to be doing quite a bit, then I think we'll be okay. But first score of the second half is so important. If Scotland score first, I can't see us coming back. But if we score first, it'll make it very interesting for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, enjoyable first half. I think Scotland have been the more accomplished team. I think they've played very well together. And like I say, I think that's the difference. Sometimes you can have it wasn't being disrespectful before. I had comments. Why don't people come on and put the comments on here? Because I'll always pick them up. But I just get inundated with this beast. In fact, actually, I'll come on to 2 profiles in a minute. Inundated with people saying, did I think I was being a bit disrespectful before by saying that Wales on paper had more quality than Scotland? No, I don't actually believe that. I think they do. But the difference is Scotland have gelled together as a team, whereas the Welsh haven't. It's almost 15 individual players. And Ireland have been the same. I've said that about Ireland in recent times as well, especially during the autumn internationals. And I think that's the difference. I think you've got that quality there on paper, but it's not gelling. And I don't know whether that's because it's the end of an era or Wayne Pivac hasn't got the preferred. You said yourself before, I haven't sorted out that whole front row thing yet. Yeah, it's that almost interregnum period where are the kings coming from, etc., etc., etc. So I don't know what it is, but definitely Scotland are playing as more of a tight and accomplished team and enjoying their rugby and the whole Ali Price thing. They all know where each other are, and they're not afraid to try things. And Greg Gore was just saying that Lee Halfpenny is a permanent change. I hope that he is okay. Obviously going through HIA. I think it's been a good game of rugby first off, and we're just about to start off, and we welcome back Ian Hay. Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to the ThreeBOD Rugby Group's second in our 5 match watch along, and we're in the second half of Scotland versus Wales. I'm Big Joe Shepp, and I'm joined by Ian Hay from the Scottish Rugby Podcast, and I'm joined by Ben Coles and by Brandon Smith. Enjoy the second half. Put your comments up. Ask the guys the questions.
What are you doing? You idiot! Oh, Bigger, you're trying to be too cocky. Just get it in the corner. Bigger's gone for a kick. If anyone hasn't seen it yet, he's tried to be too cocky. He's tried to do it low and spiral kick it or something stupid like that. We've won a penalty just outside the 22. All he needs to do is get it in the 22. That's all he's got to do is get in the 22. He's tried to be too cocky, tried to be too arrogant. There's no need to do it. Just put it in the corner. It was the perfect start for us. We won the penalty early out the breakdown, and he's gone and made a tit of himself.
Why the hell did you not just take the points?
Oh my God!
Take the points.
Is that a technical expression, Brandon?
That is.
Yeah, it's a technical thing, but yeah, definitely.
For me, that is, and I know we've said, this is, you should never jump on the back of a player. But for Pivac, if he wants to go forward at all, I don't understand anywhere where Bigger fits in this plan. I really don't understand it. And Tompkins there as well. It's just error after error. And this is how me and Brandon just said no. This is how Wales. That was a perfect opportunity at the start of the second half. Put the ball in the corner, build some pressure. Now we're facing a scrum in our own half, and that's a perfect centre field as well for Scotland. Yeah. That's the things you can't afford to do.
I disagree about Bigger. I think Bigger's certainly got a place in this squad, but doing that is just stupid and it's so unnecessary. And I don't know if he didn't see, I think it was Duhan van der Merwe, because he was sort of in the kicking process already. So I don't know if he didn't see him, but it's such a stupid thing to do. And it was the perfect platform for us to build at the start of the second half. And I think Tompkins has looked really rusty in this game. The Watkin-Tompkins partnership has just not worked so far. It's not worked. I mean, it's not their fault because they never played together. I think Watkin has looked okay, actually. But I think Tompkins has looked really rusty. And I don't know. Again, the conditions don't help. I know it's cold. Potentially, the grass is quite wet. The ball gets slippy. But still, it's frustrating, and Scotland have the perfect platform with Finn Russell on one side and Hogg on the other side of the scrum to create something.
I want to see if this scrum goes all right, though. That's there we go. Crap.
Well, we get away with that.
I think Carly's got an issue with Xander. That's a couple of times.
I was just going to say, I think he's definitely on Xander's back now, and I think from a front rower's perspective, I think with Xander Ferguson, there's some games where he is one of the best tight ends that Britain has got to offer. But then there's other games when he gets exposed, and I think at the moment he is being exposed. I thought he'd missed touch again then.
It was close. Fair enough, there's not a too shoddy scrummaging tight head on the bench for Scotland, Mr. Nell.
Now, for me, I think looking at Scotland's bench, for me, their best scrummaging props are the props that are on the bench, and that'll definitely concern Wales going into the latter stages of this game. I absolutely love Ollie Kibble. I don't know what it is about him, but I absolutely love him. I think he's a fantastic little player.
He's a big boy. He's a wee bit he's a bit hot-headed at times. But yeah, no, he's a bulldozer. He's a big lad. He's played a couple of times for Glasgow when we had injury problems. He actually played at tight head. Even think in one of the games he played a full 80 minutes. And I think
players like that in the modern game are invaluable. Players that can play across the front row. I know Wyn Jones similarly. He's been pulled in and played tight head and loose head a few times. So yeah, definitely an invaluable asset to sides. But yeah, I've seen him a couple of times for Glasgow, Ollie Kibble, and I just like the way he plays. He's a big carrying forward. But see, like this phase now in the middle of the field, it just looks like we've got no clue where we're going. And there we go, Hamish Watson penalty.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I still think we're really in this game, you know. I know it's frustrating so far, but we are really still in this game. I'm sorry, we'll be aware of that. The next score is so important in this one. And, you know, Finn Russell finds touch, which you know, is nice to see that Scotland can do that. But Hamish Watson, what a player he is. Look at that, his body strength, just to stay on his feet as well.
I think, was it 4 years ago, I think the second half, when Warren Gatland came out and said, like, Hamish Watson just completely decimated our entire back row.
Yeah.
Oh, that's bold, and that's worked.
Darcy Graham into the 22 here.
God,
I mean, he shrugged off Alan Wynne like he's not even there.
He just went under him.
Oh, this is worrying. Come on, hold him up, hold him up.
Woof.
Oh dear, this does not look good. Scotland break the first tackle every time. Oh, if he's thrown that wide, that was a try then. If that had gone wide.
Go on, Johnny. Oh, good tackle.
For all the talk of lots of the Irish and English flankers and thing, I think I've always said that Hamish Watson has got to be on Warren Gatland's card to take on a Lions tour.
Whenever Scotland players have like seemingly been, or like to some of the Scottish rugby public been, you know, insulted by Warren Gatland for not getting picked, the fact of the matter is our best players play in positions where there's lots of good players. Because Justin Tipuric is superb. Then you've got the guys like Tom Curry. Warburton was obviously still kicking about then too. So it's like our best players play in places where there's lots of strength and depth from the other countries.
But he's consistent, though.
Yeah,
I mean, you look at Ireland for back rows, you know, and Jesus, we've just got so many. They're falling out of, you know, when they're all fit. Absolutely unbelievable. And but I still put Hamish Watson as one of my favourite flankers. I think he's just so consistent in what he does all the time. There's no hit and miss with him.
I don't think he's as good a link-up man as Tipuric, but his work over the ball and also the fact that you can't tackle him, he will just bounce off you. You know the nickname for him is pinball.
Come on, I think he's over the ball.
I think the biggest thing in that back row battle, I think it's the biggest thing when you talk about the Lions is you've got to realise Gatland is in charge and there is a certain back row he's going to want to pick.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I stand by the fact that if he wants to go to South Africa and win, he's going to need a player like Hamish Watson in the mix there. Because he's a beast. And any man in international rugby that can pull off a mullet, you know, That's got to be an asset to any side.
I have to say, in recent times, this thing where mullets are coming back in and shave bits at the side there, or shave bits with mullets, I'm not really sure.
I'm a big fan of the Flats and Shanks podcast, and a term that was first used by David Flatman. Absolutely loved it. He was referring to Will Stewart, the Bath tight end, and he said that is the definition that I'm going to use the word schlid. 2 words put together, shit lid. You know, how it's, my thing with a mullet is always business at the front, party at the back. So, fair play to him.
Sorry, Ben, to cut across. No try.
Oh, crossing.
Crossing.
Really?
But should he not go back for the advantage penalty advantage Scotland had before?
Well, I was lucky to get away with not having a yellow there, because the amount of penalties we gave away in quick succession there, we gave 3 or 4 away. At the breakdown as well, you're thinking this should probably be I think because I originally I wasn't sure he'd got the ball originally, so I was like, I'm not sure what's on here, but we are.
He is blocking on that.
Yeah, it's obstruction.
Go back 2 pages before that.
Who's on?
Sheedy, 4 bigger.
4 bigger as well. See,
3.5 minutes. 3.5 minutes is taken. 8.5 minutes is taken, and Kieran Hardy's on.
Oh God. Oh, Brandon, I know you share similar views to me, but seeing Kieran Hardy come on, that fills me with dread.
I think he'll speed the game up a little bit more, but it's bold.
This now for me is Sheedy's opportunity to stick his hand up and say, Pivac, pick me against England, because this is what I can do. He's given him half an hour at the game here. From what I've watched, I don't know if you can tell me anything different, Brandon, looking at it. It looks like Halaholo's been put out onto the wing.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, we just won a penalty. we're beginning to win the battle of the breakdown. Little bits here and there. We're beginning to chip away here.
Was that a Halaholo? Oh, mate. See, that's the benefit of having
anything called Halaholo since he's come on.
He hasn't had much ball, but he's just got a brilliant turnover, which Sheedy's put into the 22. I mean, his feet are brilliant. You know a lot more about him than I would, because you're a Blues fan at the end of the day.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier on, myself and my brother, and for me, Halaholo is one of these players that he can change a game when given the right platform to work from. And I think if they do give him that opportunity later in the game to play attacking wise, maybe stick him out on the wing in terms of defence, but in terms of attacking ball, move him into either 12 or 13 channel, because unfortunately, Watkins had very little opportunity today, as is Tompkins. So it'd be good to see someone like Halaholo be given the opportunity to rip this Scotland.
No!
Go on! Yes! Come on, Liam!
Come on! Yes! Yes!
Just joining the show, something's happened. I'm 52 seconds behind, so I don't know.
Liam Williams.
Or Jane South Africa's 3 minutes behind.
Yes! Come on!
Ben's just caught up.
And for me,
and I'm on the line out.
I know it sounds biased, but for me, look at Sheedy's input in that play there. You look at what Sheedy does there. He makes that try from his delayed pass here. I don't know if they'll show it just yet for the full thing, but Sheedy's delayed pass makes that try.
It's a great line by Louis Rees-Zammit as well, isn't it? He's come off his wing, comes in there, and again we have 2 men over once again. I mean,
Sheedy,
that pass is superb.
I tell you what was really great there about Wales, right? Is you had a lot more urgency about what you were doing. Straight from the line out, it was like in, done, gone, bump, roll.
There was no let's just go through the phases here. There was like, right, the ball's on, it was called from whoever called it, ball out, Sheedy, Louis Rees-Zammit, lovely line. Defensively from Scotland, that's quite poor, you'd have to say, to have 2 men out on their own there. But I don't care. I don't care.
When the ball comes out, I mean, there's a number of players in the mix there, and the position, it's just, they've sucked Scotland right in.
Yeah.
Joe, we were talking about this at halftime, but for everything that Scotland did well in the first half, do you know that the average points scored per visit to the 22 was 2 points for either side? So even though Wales's attempts to get into that Scottish 22 were limited, our average points takeaway was exactly the same as Scotland's, and I think that was a massive benefit for us in that first half to keep as close as we did. But I think now is the time for Wales to settle. You know, we've got just under half an hour to go. I think we've just got to allow ourselves to build this platform now.
Kick off points, nothing stupid.
I tackle, fellas, to tackle the one.
Well, that's got to be. Oh, Winstones has got to be close to turning that ball over there.
See what you're saying about the points per 22 visit. Last week, Scotland actually had the second lowest, behind only England.
Yeah.
So that was an issue. Well, that was risky.
Thoughts so far in the second half, Ian Hay?
Sorry, what was that?
Thoughts so far in the second half, mate?
I'm starting to crap myself a wee bit. Carly seems to have this against Ferguson.
Go on. Oh!
Don't kick
Get on him. Get on him. Pressure.
Game on, boys. Oh, go on, Hoggy.
Why are we kicking it loose to Hogg? Liam Williams just kicks it to Hogg when he's got about 30 yards of space to play with. It's just stupidity. He's in his own 22. He can kick it dead if he wants. I do think we need to calm down, though, Wales. I genuinely think we need to, because it can get too emotional. It can get too much. What we need to do
go on, Adam Beard.
Play in the right end of the pitch. Adam Beard is penalised. We just need to kick our points and play simple now. I mean, Scotland have an opportunity here to pull ahead a bit. But
bearing in mind, lads, that Adam Beard is disappearing imminently. So, is it right that Pivac is still picking?
I got to be honest. Me and Brandon discussed this briefly. We didn't go into much detail on it. I think for me, the selection of Adam Beard is a panic that the line-out's not working. And what do you do when your line-out's going down the pan? You bring on your tallest second row that you've got available and try and give the ball to him. So I think that's, don't get me wrong, he's been playing very well for the Ospreys, and Brandon will know a lot more than I do. But he's definitely, since he was dropped from that squad for the autumn, I think he's definitely improved his game. Whether he's our best option in the second row, I'd love to see Rowlands out there now. I really would. For me, Will Rowlands, especially the fact he's coming across to the Dragons at the end of the season, I think Will Rowlands is definitely the future. It breaks my heart to say it, but we haven't got a lot of Alan Wynne-Jones left to enjoy now, I feel. So I think it's time that we get these players through and we get these players playing. Alan Wynne is a fantastic leader to have out on that field, but you've got to give these guys a chance to play. Jake Ball's going back to Australia, which is looking at a shoulder charge from Xander Ferguson.
I don't think he makes contact with the face, does he? I've only just briefly saw it, but
it's leading with a shoulder, but I don't think he's made contact with the face. I don't think it's a red card, but he's definitely leading into that recklessly. Ian, I got a really random, bizarre question to ask you here.
All right.
What's your standpoint on the Scottish kit in reference to the shorts? Because for me, the gold undercarriage on the Scottish shorts looks really dodgy.
I think we have to name and shame, actually, because the third part of the trilogy that is the Dragons Bulls World Rugby Roundup show in our private group made a bit of a comment at half time. Obviously, she's very taken with something. She'll never. I think it's only fair to be,
Looking at Xander Ferguson coming in then, and that's all you can see is this golden undercarriage, like.
Well, a Welshman is now commenting on the golden undercarriage of a Scottish prop. Well, listen, can't see that we don't spread the love around.
I think it's definite.
You should see there's a Glasgow Warriors alternate kit a couple of years ago where, the sort of the Viking logo that we had on the badge previously. That they had that coming up from the bottom of the shirt. And my mate Andy said it looks like you're being tossed off by a Viking.
Ian, is it Edinburgh that's got sponsored by the meat company, and on the shorts they've got the best rumper something?
Or is it probably not Scarlet's with our 800 different sponsors?
I
don't know actually. There's Pierre Schumann that plays for Edinburgh. He's got a meat company. I've actually bought food off him for
What's he saying? Yellow card. I think this could be a yellow.
I just think Matt Carley doesn't like Xander. Has he caught Xander dipping his wife or something? Red card. Oh, come on.
That's no way a red. I can't believe he's given that as a red.
That's
okay. Look at this.
It's gone silly.
Look at the way he comes in.
This is interesting because who does Scotland take off in that back row? Do they take Ferguson off? Or do they? I don't know who came on for Jamie.
There's no attempt. There's no attempt to wrap or whatsoever. That is coming. That's no different from O'Mahony last week. He's coming in and he turns his shoulder in and leans like that. It doesn't matter. There's that intent there that needs to be taken out.
For me, there, and it was very similar to the Francis one last week. For a referee looking at it, you've got to look, I think, and it's got to come into World Rugby's recognition now. What impact is the player that he's cleaning out?
Sorry, Ben, go on.
No, it's okay. The World Rugby have got to step in and say that it's definitely got to be something that's added into it, what impact that player is having on the actual turnover of the ball. Like if we look last week where O'Mahony goes into Thomas Francis, he's done nothing other than gone in there to try and hurt him. Now, in this instance, Wyn Jones is actually trying to turn that ball over. So you can see Ferguson's coming for the clear out. But he's got to pick that right arm up. He's got to look to lift it. And if anything, it looks like he tucks it further under. And that's where you've got to be really careful at the minute.
Ferguson goes in.
Come on, driving more.
He goes in like that. He turns the shoulder in and leans in. And sorry, that is just, whether it's happening so fast, that's just intent. His mind is telling him, I'm leading him with my shoulder.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. There's look. You can see it again there. There's just no attempt whatsoever.
I think that's frustration from Ferguson.
Possibly,
but which is no excuse, obviously. Like, but
go wide.
That's
just. There are. You're right, Ben. There's a number of questions that's still unanswered around the whole Rule 14-15 thing. And the problem is, it's never a soft sport, but the whole thing about tackling now, and it's almost, for me, it's almost gone from the days of rugby league where we've inherited an awful lot of the stuff. The high tackle thing has come from trying to rip it out from people. Whereas when I learned, I didn't learn to play until I was 21. So when I learned to play, it was sort of cheek on cheek. But the whole thing about, if you tackled low, then somebody could offload in rugby league. So they tackled higher. And it's just all I want is to find a safe balance for what they're doing.
That's right.
It's a try.
It is given. It's been given, yeah?
Yes!
Come on!
Yeah. I mean, now we just got to put our foot down. The pressure's on Scotland to come and play now.
Wyn Jones has stood up massively in these last two games. He's really led from the front, and what an effort from the boys there. Really well done. But now, like what Brandon said this about 10 minutes or so ago, we've got to settle. We've got to remember now that it's only 3 points. I don't know if Sheedy's got a conversion yet, but we've got to settle and we've got to build our way into the Scotland half and make them play.
Yeah. It's on Scotland to play now, but we've got to keep the scoreboard going now. Even if it's not an option for a time, take the point.
Well, we mentioned it. We mentioned it at halftime, Brandon. That if Wales got into Scotland's 22, never. But we were saying, like, if Wales got into Scotland's 22, we're always going to cause problems. We're always going to give them something to worry about. But as you've seen, we played 15 minutes of the second half now. Majority we've spent down in Scotland's half.
Yeah.
And as a result, we were 9 points down. We're now 3 points up. So, it's a simple game when you execute it well.
Come on, let's get our clear.
God.
Oh, have you knocked it on? Oh, you melon.
That's an interesting change there.
We got
Gray's on,
some
Gary
good
Graham.
comments, Brandon, coming up there, mate, on the red card and everything else.
These comments.
Joe Lyons, Joe, good afternoon to you. Welcome. Hope you're well, buddy. Paz Parry is saying Union's going soft there. Disagree. I think it's just there's got to be a limit. I 50, a couple of weeks. I go back 30 odd years when I started playing. It's not soft. I think it's just a different game now. But I think we do have to put things in place that do protect the players more. And there's a number of things there which aren't right. And that isn't. Nigel Quigley saying, I thought yellow at worst. Watching it back a few times, no way a red. I have to sort of watch it back again. But again, for me watching it at night, to be honest, wasn't that much different from Omari. But I didn't see as much hit with the head, which is the thing. So maybe he's been a little bit harshly done.
Both Richie Rees.
Graham's off.
Ian and Fraser Brown are saying that they don't think it's a red card.
Ian, what do you think of that? Because they've taken Darcy Graham off to bring Villamnel on. Do you think that's saying where Scotland think this game's going to be won?
Well, Harris can sort of play wing, so I mean they're probably expecting. Well, someone's obviously going to have to spread out wider. But also, like, I think the biggest thing there was Gary Graham has gone off for Richie Gray. So, therefore, somebody, a lock is going into the back row, be it Cummings. Yeah. Probably going to be Cummings, I'd reckon.
Well, looking at it from here, Richie Gray's come on. Yeah, Cummings is still out there. So,
Cummings gone to lock, I think.
Mm.
Yeah.
Corner here.
It looks like Cummings is going to blindside. I think that's a pretty harsh red.
I think it's 50-50. I really think it's 50-50.
I tend to.
I'm a wee bit biased. Obviously, I'm full on player protection. Yeah. It's like one of you were saying. I think it was Ben was saying. It's just a sort of timing issue where one's turned.
I think the problem is when you slow when it's looked at on the big screen and the team mode's got off, and you slow it down. When you see Ferguson coming in, and he turns the shoulder in, that's just showing intent. And I think that's the problem. At speed, the mind is, I need to clear him out. But when you slow it down, I think it's probably where the problem.
I think so. They say intent doesn't matter. They say because that's why O'Mani got sent off last week. It's like
absolutely
doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Joe Lyons, point there, Bran. We need a black card like GAA for those of you who don't understand it. It's the Gaelic Athletics Association, GAA in Ireland, soccer and hurling. We have a black card system where a play goes off 20 minutes, then back on unless a really bad giving a red pretty much ends the game as a competitive entity. There's been a lot of chat about. There's also been a lot of chat that if a red card play goes, this is an interesting question. Reading my mind there, mate. Reading my mind.
Have you seen the rule change in Super Rugby Australia they're bringing in?
I saw a post. I saw a post on Twitter, but I didn't look into it in too much detail. But they've really caused some controversial stirs on the media, haven't they, with what they're saying?
What they're going to start doing is after 20 minutes, if a player's been red carded after 20 minutes, they can bring a sub on for that player.
Well, I was just going to mention that there's been an argument for that. Yeah, Kevin Rab's hair from Rugby Redefined in New Zealand covered that. And the whole thing is thinking. The thing is, you've got to look at if a player goes off for red, it's consistent enough that it's severe punishment. Do you allow a change that benefits a team who's lost a player because of a red card? Is what it comes down to. Ian,
I don't think they should be allowed to, because if you've committed an active foul play that results in a red card, you should be punished for it at the time. That's my point. I think it's daft. I mean, it will make no difference, I suppose, if there's less than 20 minutes left in a match. But no, I don't. I don't agree with it at all.
No.
But I think it's daft.
I think that it definitely. I don't think it's something that needs to be looked at, because I think the red card it definitely has a place within rugby, and like you said, in those cases of serious foul play, then the red card completely serves its purpose. But I just think that for referees and players, I think from a player's perspective, if you look at Xander Ferguson going in there, like what Joe said, in his split second in his mind, he's an hour into the game. He's a tight head prop. He's gone through an incredible workload. His mind has got so many things going through it. In his head, the only thing he's thinking is, I need to clear this ruck.
Absolutely.
And
that's a good shove.
How the heck was Scotland beating us with, like, what?
Oh, got to do hand. Oh.
I think
that's the advantage, though.
Yeah, but like if you look last week, the comment saying that it ends it as a competitive entity, I think last week Ireland goes to show that it does not at all. Absolutely ridiculous.
When Glasgow played Munster a few years ago, just after Foley died, Keith Ells got sent off pretty early doors, but Munster, because of the passion that was on, they tore the Warriors apart. And this was a grade A Warriors team with Finn Russell, Hogg, Dunbar, all those kind of guys in it. But Munster ran over the top of us. But no, I think if you've got a man red carded, it's your own fault. It's their indiscipline that's done it. They should be punished at the time.
Yeah.
I got to question Scotland here. They've turned down the penalty twice to get them back into the game. They must really back themselves at the moment to get a result out of the 22 year, because they've turned down 2 opportunities to take points now.
Well, Francis is off, Liam Brown's coming on, because we've been struggling out the scrum recently, and I think we're 1 penalty away from a yellow card here, to be honest.
I was about to say, I thought maybe that, because I mean, there's been a few within sort of 10 metres of the Welsh line now.
1 more and we're stuffed here.
Definitely.
Yeah.
This needs a big one from Nell. I'm surprised Sutherland's still on. I thought they'd maybe bring Ollie Kebble on. But no. Especially with the fresh tight head on for Wales.
So Wayne Wright's going off as well. Who's coming on for him? James Bloke. Thoughts on that, Ben? Big fan of his?
I am. I'm a massive fan. I did read that the reason why it wasn't Shane Lewis who was called up was an injury-related one. So, quite rightly so, both of them comes into the side. Completely different entity to Wainwright, though. I think both of them will cause trouble at the breakdown, but in terms of carrying, I think Wales have taken off one of their biggest carrying options.
Better scrum from us.
I remember I saw a thing a couple of weeks ago from James Botham when he he questioned, or he talked to Cross and Alan Wynne Jones briefing. He said it was the only time he could do it. It was funny as anything. You just imagine it. If you've been in any walk of life, if you've been a sort of junior newbie person and one of the senior old sweats, and and they're talking and you say something, you ever do it the once.
I've completely forgot about it because it was just when the Wales tried. But you were talking about Pierre Schoolman, Ian. I remember I came up to Edinburgh with my brother last year, and we went up to watch the Blues in Edinburgh. And really, really funny story. So we ended up after the game. We were sat up in the Edinburgh Players' Lounge, and we were having a chat to some of the players and what have you. And it was a it was a good evening. And we got to see some of the players, and we looked at our programs, and of the match day squad, fair play to the boys, they were happy to sign autographs off, and the only one I was missing was Pierre Schoolman. And I said, I don't know why they were all there, all the Blues boys were there, all the Edinburgh boys were there. I just couldn't work it out. Well, after that, then we got on the tram, went back into the city centre, and we went into Five Guys on Princess Street. And sat in there with a couple of his mates with what can only be described as the dirtiest cheat meal I've ever seen in my life. Pierre Schoolman. He's got like 3 burgers. Oh, no.
Yes!
How we conceded to 14 men? It's such poor defending.
It just goes to show that you can be galvanised when you're a man down, like we were last week. Not quite enough, but...
That's really poor defence. It's so poor. You should not be beaten. We have 1 extra man. You know that Hogg is the danger runner. You know that Finn is the danger runner.
This is where
Is that he's slapped away?
Is that Sheedy, who's just chasing shadows?
We've got to switch on to that, you know, like
Watkin has to make that tackle as well.
Scotland are going to be galvanised by this now, and they know full well that they're going to feel hard done by, and Wales are going to feel like there is going to be a gap to exploit. But for me, I think so. And Watkin, actually, I think Watkin misses the tackle.
Well, Watkin misses the tackle, but Sheedy's in no man's land for me.
Yeah.
It's a great finish from Hogg, but you know it's coming. He's the danger man. So,
in Tompkins' defence, there you have to trust your inside man is coming across to make that tackle. And yes, Owen Watkin gets it, but he doesn't make the tackle. And you know, you can't say to anything other than Tompkins is been in a pretty difficult situation. But fair play to Hogg. He took the opportunity, and you know, against a bigger man as well.
Poor defence, though. Very poor defence.
Yeah, extremely.
Pushing people off.
Great kick.
What a great kick that is, man.
Great kick. 14 minutes to go.
The ballsiest kick I've ever seen was the 14-15 Pro 14 semi-final, Pro 12 as it was at the time, when Warriors were playing Ulster. Like, Finn had thrown this amazing 25-metre skip past the DTH to score right in the corner. It's like 3 minutes to go. The kick's right in front of my seat. And it's like right on the touchline. Me and my mates are like, right, man, this is going to extra time, isn't it? And he slots it. You're like, no way. 16-14, and then obviously we went over to Ulster Stadium and gave Munster a tanking.
Yeah.
Thanks to the glorious Leonie
Similar kick back from Finn. Fair play.
Back in the day when we beat Leinster at the RDS and Shane Williams scored in the corner.
I was just going to say.
Yeah, and I remember watching that and thinking, right, we got the ball here. Come on. We've got an extra man. We've got to make it count.
I think this is the thing from Wales now. The mindset has got to change from this kicking game. We've got to keep the ball in hand now.
Yeah.
And we've got to try and find those gaps somewhere. Move Halahollow into the middle of the pitch. Look for those spaces.
You're actually going to have to get past Richie Gray's massive wingspan.
There's an extra man. It's Alan Wynne on the wing. What's he doing there? Why is he there? Why is he there? Why is he on the wing? Why is Alan Wynne on the wing? What's going on?
I don't know if a few years back, it was always the case that like the All Blacks used to
go on, Leon Brown. Come on, Wyn Jones. Come on, ball out wide. Come on, we got an extra man. Come on, Sheedy, don't dawdle on the ball. Oh, what's going to happen? Oh!
That's all right.
I tell you what, you get that, Bran, you getting that excited? I'm 52 seconds behind. Poor old 4J in South Africa's 3.5. So
I can't help it.
He's just hit the previous Scottish pride.
To paraphrase one of my fellow citymen, that squeaky bum time, that was.
The bounce of the ball there is pretty lucky.
He's judged that well.
Hogg is looking at that ball going, go out. Ah, you shit.
Fuck you, ball.
Yeah, like, it's just so difficult.
Scotland, George Turner off, Rory Sutherland off, and replacing him, Ollie Kebble's on as well. In row for Scotland.
Dave Cherry's quite a great story, man. He's 30 years old. He's just been a sort of solid journeyman. Obviously, we've got a few injuries, but whenever I've seen him play for Edinburgh, he's a good, solid pro, good darts.
But I think these are the sort of players that make a side, you know, the ones that appreciate where they've come from and how they've got into the position they're in.
Come on, we got an overlap here. Why the heck is Alan Wynne on the wing?
He's knackered now. He's going out onto the wing for a break.
Because he saw WP&L come on for Darcy Graham, he thought he should level it
out.
Alan Wynne in his head. Alan Wynne in his head is working out.
Burners! Go on, son! Go on, that's all you! Go on!
Yes! Come on!
What a try! What a try! Get in there! What a try, son!
Oh, God. Ladies and gentlemen,
when
welcome
you see
to
this, Joe,
today's
when you see
Gogglebox
this,
show. We are.
Oh,
son. Yes! Yes! Come on! Yes!
what instinct! That's just a natural finish there. He's backed himself and he's thought, do you know what, I'm just going to go for it. He's backed his pace, and honestly, Hogg is eating the dust from his boots.
Oh, and that's a
I'm
bonus
waiting
point.
for the try to come.
I did
Oh, look at this go. That's
Hollow there.
Oh, what a beautiful. Whoa, good man, you blew.
Yes!
You know what? The thing about Louis Rees-Mogg, though, is he's been doing it for Gloucester all season. And Gloucester, with no disrespect, are rubbish. They've really been bad this season, right? That's a nice way of saying it. But I think he scored like a try in every other game he's played for Gloucester. And the kid's like, what, 20? Something like that? Adam Wynn is off now. Come on, Sheedy, slot this.
Brandon,
a young lad has just scored a second try for Wales. He's been brought up into the Welsh squad from the under-11s today. A boy called Louis Rees-Mogg.
That's a poor miss. That was a very poor miss.
now, see, this is where we've got to be careful. We were talking about this, Brandon, in the week, and we thought it was going to be tight, you know, and it's gone to show it is going to go right down to the wire. But for me, I did not see 4 tries from Wales. You know, I don't think we showed enough last week to warrant we were going to get a bonus point up in Scotland. And, you know, as is shown last year, you know, bonus points in the Six Nations now, they are a massive, massive thing to come by. So if Wales can keep Scotland at bay now for the next 9 minutes, I think they'll definitely be taking a great amount out of this game if we can get a win and walk away with a bonus point. Who would have ever saw that coming?
Sheedy's missed 2 kicks, because if it comes down to a kick at the end, I'm shitting myself. I mean,
you just look at rewatching Louis Rees-Mogg's try. The belief he has, he's running his run. He thinks, you know what? I'll outrun these. I'll just kick him.
I'm quicker than you. And that's what it is.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Isn't it great watching the youngsters?
To kick that accurately at that pace is super.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was he 19 years old?
20, I think he is.
20.
Ian, I'm gonna be jumping on your bandwagon again. Matt Ferguson for me has got to be up there with man of the match. He's made so many meters from those first phase carries.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the bandwagon. Because he's only maybe 20. I think he's only 22 still.
He's got a huge future ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him.
Don't step out the line, Watkin. Why you step out the line?
I've seen him winning man of the match against like Exeter a couple of years ago, and that's when you had your Finn Russells, Tommy Seymour, Stuart Hoggs playing there. So he's a class act. Oof,
I just seen a comment there from Brian Williams saying Louis Rees-Mogg's awesome prospect. And again, you have to go back to that for bolters, for the Lions, you got to look at the likes of Duhan van der Merwe, Louis Rees-Mogg. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? You know, just exciting players. And that's, you know, if you got to compete with
lovely turnover.
I mean, you're going to compete with the South African wingers, then you're going to have to sort of play them at their own game.
Cheslin Colby fought race against
exactly. That's my point.
Oh, James Botham there. What a turnover. Now see, Liam Williams, why is he straight down the middle of the pitch? Oh, pick your head up and look for corners, man.
I don't think, can he call? I think he took that back. He can't call the mark if he takes it back.
No, and I don't know if it's just me, right? But is Sheedy still got his gum shield in his sock? It's not going to do you many favours in your sock, son.
The world's shittest shin pad.
Why did Liam Williams just hoof that down the centre? It's just giving the ball away for no apparent reason.
Yeah. Well, it was a funny thing. I don't know if you've seen it recently, but Halfpenny, he's got an incredible set of front gnashes at the moment because he had one of his teeth kicked out in a game for the Scarlets. And like I work in a primary school, and a lot of the ladies there, there's a big fascination with Lee Halfpenny. I haven't got a clue why, really. You know, it must be something about the curly hair. But
that's a good shove. That
in one of the anthems, he sang without his gum shield in, and they went, "Oh my gosh, what's happened to his face?" I was like, "That's rugby union for you. That's a full back for you."
His beautiful little face.
Oh, listen a bit to go.
Oh.
Come on, nothing stupid. No stupid penalties here. Scotland have to play.
Oh.
Don't let him pass it like that. Kieran Hardy, actually do a tackle.
Do a tackle.
Richie, big man.
I don't know about you, Ian, but for me, seeing the Richie Gray back in the Scottish side as well.
Delighted. Great player.
I absolutely loved him when he first came on the scene. Absolutely loved him.
Lovely.
He's back. He's had a bunch of injury problems, but yeah, when he's fit, what a player.
And how good was he last week? He was so good last week.
I don't know what your standpoint on this. I know I've got my opinions from a Welsh perspective, and Joe, you've probably got some from an Irish perspective. The French experiment a few years back, we look from the Scotland's perspective, Finn Russell still out at Racing, and Richie Gray went chasing the money. He went down to Toulouse. Wales, we've had umpteen amount of players go, and for Ireland at the moment, like Zebo, Sexton's been and done it. And I don't know whether you feel it actually benefits players or not, being exposed to other ways of playing.
Right, okay, I do. And I'm dead against the 60 cap rule. I'm dead against the Irish thing that you can't play abroad. I think it's fucking bollocks. Any ladies watching, forgive me for that. I'm just really passionate about this thing. It's just that it doesn't matter where you're playing. If you're good enough and you can travel back, I think the whole Sexton thing when he went to France was just played to death, and I think that was the start of so many problems. Zebo, I have my own opinions on Simon Zebo. He is a great player. Whether he should be part of the future.
Oh, that's lovely! No way! Man.
Come on, our defence has got to be so much better.
What a pass from Keble, by the way.
We're lucky to get away there. I mean, Ollie Keble, it got his inner Finn Russell on then, didn't he? With that
I don't know. For me, I think Stuart Hogg is in line for his second man of the match here.
That was high. Come on.
Come off it.
But yeah, back to France.
Sorry, yeah. So there we go. So I don't think I think there's too many restrictions, but it's what a national union wants to do to keep their players at home is part of the problem. Look at that! I'm just catching him like, he slips and goes.
Yeah, from a Welsh perspective,
just goes over that pass by Ollie Keble. Ollie Keble and Ty Fairlawn last week are one of the reasons why you're never on the
rally. What the
time?
Yeah. From what you were saying there, Joe.
What a kick! Louis
fucking stupid.
What a kick! Watch this kick, Ben. When you see it, this is an insane kick.
We'll come back.
Is this a Doolan kick against England last year? Oh, what? Oh no! It's that's absolute filth.
The guy.
Okay, I've changed my mind. Louis Rees-Zammit for man of the match. I've changed my mind.
It's a great kick, isn't it?
For me, but Price's kick is pointless.
Yeah, there's no need to do that.
Yeah, there's no one chasing.
Back to what we were talking about, Joe. The big thing that you picked up on was the fact that these clubs will play the Welsh, Irish, whatever players they are, they play them to death because they're not involved in the nation's plans.
The chairman are playing big money.
Yeah, well, like my biggest one when this happened was Jamie Roberts. When he first went over there, they were playing him to death, and it did affect his form. But yeah, I think when you look at it, I think the 60 cap rule is nonsense. I know for Welsh players now, a lot of them are looking to come back, and for me, that can only be a good thing. Seeing players from your own country playing in the country that they want to play for.
I think COVID has changed a lot of things, lads.
Yes,
people are coming back. I think people are coming back to spend more time with the family that are home and taking less money, but making more of a career structure and a life structure around. So I think that is what changing. But it is very difficult. I mean, it's a very limited career.
Yeah.
I mean,
Finn. He's spinned it.
Pass!
Now he's turned it over.
Oh my word!
Surely that's a turnover. Yes, well done, Finn. You've saved your own arse there, son. Jesus.
There you go. Louis
The
Rees-
duality of Finn Russell. In 5 seconds.
Just looks up. I think he's got Zamet inside of him. He just looks.
Oh, for goodness sake. Minute and a half to go. Come on, boys. You've got to hold out.
I'm actually shitting myself.
I don't know if you can tell it, right? But there's a culmination of difficulties that I've got going on here. Number one, I'm absolutely bricking it, so I'm sat on my hands. Number two, I am desperate for the loo, so I am shaking like a shitting dog at the minute. I've got the shakes.
I am.
Oh.
50 seconds, boys. 50 seconds.
Well taken, Richie.
Well, you see again. I almost want Scotland to win now, but obviously I pipped for Wales, and so went on the tipping in the group. The tipping group I'm in. I'm on 3 from 3 last week, and I'm on. If Wales win, I'm on 2 from 2 today. But I've picked France to the island tomorrow.
Pressure on him. Go on, don't let them get any easy exit now. Scotland have to go from their own 22 now if they want this. 10 seconds for me. Go.
Pressure. It's all about line speed. And so, that's such a shit pass.
Come on, 5 seconds to go. Come on, Scotland, you can knock the ball forward if you want. It's all right.
Just looking at the stats there, line-outs. Scotland 11 line-outs to Wales' 6.
Yeah.
Our line-out has been better. It's been better. And our scrum has been iffy. I mean, my concern is that we'll most likely win this game, fingers crossed, obviously, touch wood and all that. As Finn Russell nearly breaks through. Jesus. My concern is we've only managed to beat Scotland just and Ireland just, and yet they've had 14 men on the pitch.
Yeah,
so
my standpoint on that is that with the Ireland red card, I think that if you lose a forward at that stage of the game, in particular,
why are you giving away a penalty? There's just no need. You've given them an easy exit.
This is where Wales' game management has got to be better.
It's so unnecessary.
I can't hold it anymore. I need to run away for a piss and then come back to do this because this is just killing me.
Wales, you just got to be better there.
I mean, there's no need to do that because, Scotland have to play from their own 22. The pressure's on them. Any mistake they make is the end of the game. And yet we give them an easy exit. It's just the older heads in the team, Falatau, Liam Williams, all they can say, we just keep it simple. We pull a tackle, we roll away, we let them go through the
you're under pressure, kidder. They know you're under pressure. And that thing is like you're so close, 1 point. And it's like and even at the professional level, it's that sort of
it is.
The human beings at the end of the day.
I think fatigue slightly plays on it, but at the same time, you look at those sides at the top end of whatever competition it is you want to talk about. If you look at anything like that, those teams at the top of their game are going to make those decisions late on in the game. You don't see New Zealand, making those giving away those silly penalties late in the game.
The opposite. New Zealand are going from 75th minute, regardless of where they are, they go up to another gear. Came back.
No. Jesus. Scotland have to go from their own half here. Finn Russell, snap him. Not literally, just tackle him. Cross face. Walk in. Oh, no. Oh, they've knocked it on. Okay, go on.
Have they done it?
Playing the ball. There's no way he's turned this over.
I'm still at 81 minutes 50, guys. So I'm about 50 seconds behind you, but I can sense the excitement that's going on.
Yes! Yes! Come on! Yes!
Oh my gosh!
There we go. Oh!
We nearly threw it away at the end. We nearly threw it away. We nearly threw it away. I don't know if you thought that at the end. Duhan van der Merwe ran through.
Duhan. You see Duhan
I thought that was it. I thought he was in there.
Oh, it's just if he's offload the hog was just a little bit better.
That was it.
What a match, lads.
Fair play. Well played. Well played.
Mind the Up Nations Cup, whenever it was bitching about how rugby was boring. Shut the hell up.
The Six Nations has been good, hasn't it?
Oh, that's a good tap tackle. That's a good tap tackle.
Absolutely right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. So that's it. It's Wales, the second game of the second round of the 2021 Guinness Six Nations. And Wales narrowly scraped through 25 to 24 against Scotland. So there we go. So we're going to be able to take a breath. I've just caught up now. Everybody's just caught up. Poor old 4J in South Africa. It's still about a minute and a half away. But there you go, fella. You're watching it all the way through. You all welcome to today's ThreeBOD Rugby Group hashtag Matchwatch Gogglebox, where we have been watching. And we've got Wales and Scottish fan watching the game, and you're watching us, and we're all going crazy. And thanks very much for joining us today. Brought to you by the Three Blokes at Ball and Bod, part of the ThreeBOD Rugby Group. So there we are. Take a breath and chill. And Ben Coles, tell us your thoughts on the game when it was won.
Absolutely delighted. I think this team is going to build on that. Yeah, again, we'll talk about the imperfections, but we can talk about that at a different time. Let's look at positives. We've gone up to Scotland. We've scored 4 tries. We've managed to beat a side that beat England well last week. And if I was an English fan now, I'd be absolutely bricking myself to play a Welsh side full of confidence and ready to take them on. But yeah, superb. Absolutely fantastic.
Excellent. And we'll just bring up the comment from Nigel quickly there, Brandon. Nigel, one half of our Ultra Roundup show.
Someone a bit salty.
Jesus, okay, yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a great game. I thought it was a great game of rugby, and I wasn't sure how the Six Nations were going to go, but I bloody thoroughly enjoyed it. Even today, Italy getting some people say, I've seen a side discussion in one of the groups I'm in about the Six Nations and Italy again and blah 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 blah. I think the Six Nations so far it's been 5 bloody games of exciting games of rugby. I've really enjoyed all of it. It's been fun. Ian Hay from the Scottish Rugby Podcast. I know you've been dual rolling today, different things, mate. Appreciate being. Give us your thoughts, mate, from a Scotland perspective. Down to 14 men for a while, but yeah, good.
I'm going to DPD a shit to Matt Carley's house. No, fair play to Wales. They took their chances. The first half, Scotland dominated. Wales took the early impetus with Wales, but then it looked like Scotland were really coming back into it and dominated the second half. But then Wales got that chance towards the end of the first half, took it. Lewis Rees-Zammit, what a finisher! What a talent. It's a heartbreaker, but hey, what a hell of a match. Yeah, if you've sat and watched that as a neutral or as a fan of either team, and you're trying to tell me that Test rugby is not the top level of the game, you can go and kiss my ass. As to Matt Carley. But no,
I tell you, you're right, mate. And with all the best will in the world, and I don't disrespect anybody's viewpoint on the fact that all sports should be cancelled because we're in level 5 or level 4 in the UK, whatever it is. But for me, sport and comedy and music, and it just lifts everybody in real shit times, and that's always been the case. Wherever you are on the globe and whatever you're going through, a bit of comedy, a bit of sport, but it just lifts where people are, and I think this has been great. Just for seeing teams in a bubble, having the minimum amount of people available possible, and I just feel better about life overall, despite everything that was going on. I mean, Jesus, lads, there's
speak for yourself.
We lost last week, and I was still happy because it was because I'd predicted the right result anyway. And it's that dichotomy between my bloody head and my heart. And the same again today. I want Scotland to win, but after living there, my son's there, but I thought Wales would win, and you hung on. But it's no. The serious point is that it's brilliant. I just think it lifts people and it brings people together. And Rosemary Bartlett, there we go. Great game of rugby. Well done, Wales. Absolutely. Conor Broomfield is sticking in there as well. Well done, Wales. Hard luck, Scotland. What a fantastic game of rugby. Absolutely, of course it is. Brandon Smith, You've calmed down a little bit. I left you like just so you can chill. See, it's that young, I can't even think of the bloody word now. It's that youngness in you that's just getting. We thought happy.
Very happy with the win, obviously. Lots to work on, yes. And when I calm down, I do reveal my channel about it and chat about a few of the bits of the game. Very concerned in the first half. Very. We both said the next score was crucial, and we got that next score just before the end of the first half. So we were very, very lucky to go in at halftime so close. But yeah, the red card changed the game, didn't it? And we nearly threw it away at the end. But a win is a win. 2 wins out of 2. We play home next against England, of course, for the Triple Crown, which you never have expected at the start of the Six Nations. And I'm not saying Grand Slam, absolutely not. Do not say I'm saying Grand Slam because I'm not saying that. But do you know what? At the start of the Six Nations, you'd have said we'd have beaten Ireland at home and beaten Scotland away. I'd have been absolutely buzzing. So, and Louis Rees-Zammit, I mean, the kid plays without fear. It's like France's young squad. They play without fear. He plays what's in front of him. He backs himself. And maybe, as Ben has rightly said about some of the older players, maybe it's time to start thinking about bringing those youngsters in who play without fear and just play what's in front of them. And
one person I'm happy for is Wayne Pivac, because he's taken a fair bit of shit after the last Six Nations, and just it's the same when Townsend took over. He's trying to implement his own game style on it, and it's not going to be an instant turnaround. All right, sometimes you get that. But sometimes it's just a honeymoon period. He's maybe gone through a muddy patch first, and now he's starting to get his side going. And also, you've still got. It's like when Wales went on about their injuries during the week, like Stuart Hogg still went, there's like 9 Lions in the starting squad and 13 in the entire team. Obviously, guys like Josh Navidi are still missed. But, there's a lot of quality in that Wales team. And it's fair play. He's managed to nick that one. Obviously, I'm not in the best mood, but what a fantastic game, and it's been great being on with you guys.
Brilliant, and we said before that the fact that on paper, Wales had the far better team of players on paper, and they have done.
Alan Wynne-Jones basically has the same number of caps as the entire Scotland pack.
Yeah.
There's some carry operators in there, and they did their job. And then Callum Sheedy came on. He missed a couple of kicks you think he should have got, but he added that little bit of impetus, and he made the right passes at the right times. And Zammit, what a way to win the game! What a try!
Absolutely outstanding. And I go back to the fact that they're not just bolters now. They are serious considerations for a Lions team that goes to South Africa next year, all being well, is Duhan van der Merwe and Louis Rees-Zammit. They're not bolters. People call them bolters. They're not bolters. They are serious contenders, and they've shown just how well that they play and the excitement they have and the belief they have in themselves to, Jesus, that's be... Actually, the Louis Rees-Zammit one wasn't that far different from Jacob Stockdale's against New Zealand, where he was running at speed and he thought, feck this, I'm on, I don't give a feck who you are, I'm on, I'm at speed, I'm going to kick through, and I have the belief and ability to beat you. And it was almost, I just saw that in my mind going through the same thing again. And fair play for young Louis there, because it's not about age, not about experience, it's about belief. And he just imagined he closed his eyes before the game and saw that happening, and to get man of the match is absolutely superb.
If you're good enough, you're old enough.
Yeah, you are, and that's a Southern Hemisphere thing, isn't it? And I go back to the only people who have taken that approach in the last sort of 18 months, 2 years are France, and I think England has stolen. Ireland haven't got going yet. I'm glad you brought up the point about Wayne Pivac. I think he has. I'm a big fan of Wayne Pivac, and I think he'll be very, very good. But people forget that I get a lot of criticism about sort of knocking Sir Garen Watland. I call him Sir Garen Watland, the greatest picture. He's not my cup of tea, but he's a great coach. but he's a totally different type of coach than Wayne Pivac is. But even Warren Gatland in the first 2 years didn't have the success. People want instantaneous stuff overnight, and it didn't come for Wales in the first 2 years. And yet poor old Wayne's been at 12 months in COVID, in lockdown, trying to put things together. And, so I'm glad for him. And one of the reasons that I picked Wales to win today in my tipping competition was because of how much I believe in him as a coach and bringing the team together. Now, on the pitch, I still feel that Scotland were the better joined up team overall, but Wales hung on and did it and got a bonus point in Scotland. So so you can't beat that. Brandon Smith, you must have some stats ready for me now, kiddo.
Yes, we got some stats for you to look from the game itself, which makes me interesting reading. Let me just get my screen up. There it is. There's the stats for you.
Wow.
So, yeah, Scotland dominating possession, dominating territory. Time in possession is interesting, pretty equal. Time in opposition, 22. Look at that. I mean, that's just crazy. To get 4 tries from that, it is fantastic to see.
That's absolutely balmy. Time in the opposition, 22, 1 minute 23, and to get a bonus point.
That's how quick Louis B. Summit is.
So am I right? Look, three of the tries. Am I right in saying like 3 of the Wales tries sort of came not directly from lineouts, but off the back of lineouts?
Yeah.
And it's just when you got penalties, you got penalty upon penalty, and it just gave Wales field territory.
Yeah.
So Scotland maybe what's the penalty count? I can't see this here.
They'd be down on discipline, I believe. Discipline. Here we go. Penalties conceded 11 to 12. So.
All right, close, but it's just we compounded ours like one on top of the other.
I think that time in the 22, for Wales goes back to the comments I made earlier. In the fact that from the line out, the urgency that Wales had, it just almost sort of kicked in, and it was just they were in automatum, which it was one of the few times when it sort of gelled as a team for me today. Whereas Scotland overall gelled as a team, it was one of those few times the ball came off and it was gone. And stats are great, aren't they?
I'm still pissed off about the Gary Graham disallowed try because Wales had conceded at least 2 or 3 penalties during that phase of possession. Does that should that, I mean I don't know the specific rule. If anyone who's a qualified ref can tell this to me, definitely. I'm not going to bitch about it too much, but could it not have gone back? Like Matt Calley could not have said, "Hang on," because there was 2 or 3 advantages there. I obviously could have got the headset on. I couldn't hear the commentary, but you saw the arm out. And there was a number of penalties conceded. I
think we were lucky not to receive a yellow card throughout the game. Yeah. I thought, especially at that point where you had the upper hand at the scrum, 10 metres out. We were conceding penalties there. You were picking and going, and we're conceding penalties there. I think we were very lucky to come away with the yellow card.
Almond Jones conceded 2 or 3 within 10 metres. But obviously, he gets away with it. I love Alan Munn-Jones, by the way. I will put my hand up. Like when I was at the Six Nations press launch last year, I was like, my God. I was like, I've got a heavy man crush on this guy. But yeah, he's magnificent. I love his style. I love the fact that he's not like, see, sometimes you get people at press conferences who are just grumpy and dour and don't want to be there. Alan Jones is a little bit grumpy and dour, but he's polite and he speaks well. He's very direct and honest, and I really think he's a fantastic player.
There's people in rugby, both player and as a person, that you look back through the history, and you just think that they've added so much value, like the Juice van der Westhuizen and there's on and off the field. They just had Alan Wynne is one of those who Sergio Parisse, loads of them, but they just add so much value as human beings, as people, as players in the game, which is Doddy was the same. Doddy was the same, you know. The whole Lions thing where he'd been out on the lash with his family.
Oh,
that was my brother.
You know, and again, I've just mentioned 2 out of 4 people there who have ended up with dreadful illness, and it's horrible. But they're just, it's almost like the harshest things that happen to the nicest people in life. And I think Alan Wynne is coming towards the end of an illustrious career, but he's still there. I mean, I was like, geez, he's out on the wing. I hope somebody gives him the ball and he runs to try and just because it's Alan Wynne and he's on the wing. You know, what's all that about? Okay, right. We need to wrap up. Thoughts overall, guys, have been really, really great. We are sort of almost 2.5 hours into this match watch. Brandon Smith, give us your one takeaway from the game that really stood out for you.
For Wales, it's a win, and we go on to face England. For Scotland, encouraged with the first half, but obviously frustrated with the rest of the game. But both teams will be fairly confident, I think, going into the next matches. But an interesting time now, a break, so we'll see what both coaches can do during that time.
Cool. Ian, hey, take away.
Congratulations to Wales. You know, it's a mark of a good team that they can grind out results when they're maybe not at their best. And they've done it 2 weeks in a row. You know, it's a team that are still full of winners. Obviously, last year, like I said, you know, they weren't at their best, but that's because a change of system, change of coaching staff completely, especially with not just Gatlin, but Sean Edwards leaving. But, you know, there's good players in there. The old heads and like the likes of Lewis Rees-Zammit. I know Tompkins, I don't think a lot of you thought Tompkins played well, but, you know, once or twice he did important things. So, yeah, so fair play, guys.
Cool. Ben?
Yeah, for me, massive step in the right direction for Wales, like what Brandon said. Things that were wrong last week were righted to an extent this week. You know, the line-out worked a lot better. Ian mentioned that the 2 of our tries came off quick line-out ball. So, you know, you can't underestimate just how much of a difference that's made today. For me now, it's how we build into the England game. We'll have a lot of players coming back from injury. Do those players go straight back into the team, or does Pivac show faith in the boys that did the job today? You know, for the likes of Jonathan Davis, and I've seen a lot of press recently about whether he comes into the lineup as soon as he's fit. For me, definitely experience-wise, you know, you'd love to have him in there. But for me, I feel that at the moment, he probably isn't test match ready. Whether you have someone like him on the best, it's controversial, I know, but you play in England, going for a Triple Crown, you know, where do we go? Do we want our biggest players in there because we know that they can do it on their day? Or do we go with the future? I don't know. For Scotland, I think definitely they haven't gone backwards at all today. I think, if anything, they're definitely on the right path. You know, they only lost by a point. And for me, I definitely think that the Scotland side is going places.
Good man. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the second in the series of 5 of our Gogglebods, our hashtag match watches, where you watch us watching the games, different time zones. We're 2.5 hours in, so we need to finish off. And we next on Monday, we've got a Keegan and Big Joe show where we're probably going to look. We're just changing this as literally comments. Conversations as this game's going on, we're probably going to be looking at the whole thing about the Six Nations and a Div 1 and the current European Championships at Div 2 and Italy and the whole Georgia thing, the whole thing that goes around and around and around. And we might just add a few things in there about judo rolling and crocodile rolling and all the rest of the things that might just add a little bit of stuff to it. So watch out for Monday. That'll be 20-30 hours on Monday anyway. There will be something going on. And then we got a 2-week break now before we then go. The next review of round 2 and a preview of round 3 will be the Ulster Rugby Roundup shows. Dave Toppin and Nigel Quiggle will be looking at that as well. And then we'll have another match watch game on the Saturday or the Sunday after that as well. This has been brought to you by three blokes of ball and board, part of the ThreeBOD Rugby Group. I'm the founder and chief bloke, Big Joe Shepp, and it's been a pleasure. I just keep things rolling along for the people with all the knowledge from Brandon Smith Rugby on YouTube. Go and listen, go and subscribe, listen to what he does. Some fantastic stuff. Brandon, thank you as ever. And we'll catch up tomorrow. And he's just dropped himself out. He's in control of everything today as well. Our newest co-host.
I think he needs a piss.
He's like, Jesus, I need to go for a piss, lads. You know, I've got a drink. I've won, so I'm off. The champagne's opened. See you, big fella. For another co-host, Ben Coles. Ben, thank you very, very much as ever, mate. And so glad you're part of the team as well. And last but not least, our good friend Ian Hay, one of the trilogy of people on the Scottish Rugby. Go and listen to the Scottish Rugby podcast. It is one of my favourite things to play catch up on, and that's why I support them on Patreon as well. Ian Hay, first time to us, mate. Thank you for your time, mate. And I know you've been dual hatting today with other stuff. And best of wishes to you, to John and Cammy, and all that you're doing, mate.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll pass those messages on, and if you want me back anytime, just give me a shout. And I'll fix my lighting. Just the lighting around here is a nightmare.
Yeah, John will be like, oh, Jesus, no, he was only standing for me today. You can't come back again. John, you snooze, you lose, mate. So, Ian Hay from the Scottish Rugby podcast, thanks very, very much. I am Big Joe Shepp, founder and chief bloke at the ThreeBOD Rugby Group. I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of crack. And that's all it is. We've enjoyed the rugby. Please stay safe, stay strong. Do whatever it takes to get through this period. Life isn't going to be the same again. And until next week, come and subscribe to us on the YouTube channel at the ThreeBOD Rugby Group. Join us on Facebook at the ThreeBOD Rugby Group. We have 6 permanent shows a month, and then we do other shows for the likes of the New England Free Jacks and stuff like that. There's just loads and loads of stuff. Oh, and Finn Russell. Finn Russell has become one of my favourite people. I just think he's a class player. And I'm going to leave you with this. But go to Pure Sport CBD. Go and look at alternative ways of living healthily. And go to Pure Sport CBD, which is run by Adam Ash, former Glasgow Warriors player who's gone to the LA Giltinis, and Grayson Hart. And look what they do for changing people's lives through using the purest of CBD. And recently, Adam Ash did a one-on-one chat, which I produced and directed for them with Finn Russell, and it was just superb. And you see Finn Russell in a totally different light. We share stuff with you. We hope you enjoy it. If you do, share it on, subscribe, and join us. Until next time, I am Big Joe Shepp. God have made a mark, go tag us, slang a fall.